All right, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Tour. We are taking off from somewhere called Black Tickle, Newfoundland, and we are going to continue our route to the north, eventually trying to get to Greenland. Let me open up my little map here and make sure I know where we are. Yeah, we're kind of going to go northwest along the Labrador Trough, past Cape Harrison, up to Ungava Bay, and we're going to try to get up to Baffin Island. Maybe stop in Iqaluit. So we've got some lawn mowing going on outside. I'll shut the window. 1 second. For podcasts, I think we will listen to the Friday. Well, we've got a couple episodes of the Tony Kornheiser Show, Thursday and Friday. That would be June 2nd and June 3rd. Today is June 4th, Saturday, June 4th at 11:22 a.m. We've got the Thursday, June 2nd, and the Friday, June 3rd episode of the Tony Kornheiser to listen to. And we've also got the Friday episode of segments of the Sharp and Benning Show we could listen to. But we're going to start with the Thursday, June 2nd episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Previously on the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Yes, even though I'm not sure quite how name, image, and likeness stuff works.
And I give them money.
Oh, just
This is how it works.
you just give them money.
Name, image, and likeness allows athletes to be given money by anybody.
Right, you just give them
By
cash.
anybody. Straight cash, homie, if you want to. Whatever you want to do.
Would you get, like, on the back of the uniform? I don't know what.
They don't wear uniforms.
Well,
they wear a golf shirt.
Good.
On his bag.
Yeah,
on
the
his
back.
bag.
Did you say Kornheiser?
I wanted to say on his bag, I am sponsored by Tony Kornheiser.
This is General George Washington, and you're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
I'm not against it. I mean, players have been cash cows for 100 years. They've gotten nothing. They've gotten nothing. Coaches and administrators have gotten everything.
Right.
So I'm fine with them making money. I'm just not going to do it myself. I'm not sponsored.
Were you talking about the 12-year-old kid?
No, this is the freshman at
Binghamton.
At Binghamton. What are you, Sean Colella, what are you talking
No,
about?
there's a 12-year-old kid who got name, image, likeness for golf.
A 12-year-old kid?
Yeah, that's right.
Who paid him?
A lot of companies. I think one of the big ones is Encore Golf Balls.
Is he good? I
Yeah,
guess he
he's
must
won
be
everything.
Good. All right. Let me speak to the reality of this show. What you are hearing now is being taped at the normal time at about 7:30 in the morning on Thursday. We're a day late. And the reason we're a day late today, and I should go into summer schedule, is, by the way, we're going to try and do 3 shows, but they're not all going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I get a chance to get away, they're going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or some weeks. If I actually take vacation weeks, I'll let you know.
Vacation, she'll be worried?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not suspended.
Not vacation.
I'm not suspended.
You
If I
never
get
know with you.
suspended, that would be different. But last night, Wednesday night, in the 7 o'clock hour, 7 o'clock Eastern, we taped both our guests. Eric Sedransk, who is the son of someone I went to grade school and high school with, and he's involved with charity golf called Member for a Day, and with Wilbon, because Wilbon's in San Francisco. I don't want to, ask Wilbon to wake up in the morning. It's foolish. He's got a very long day today, Thursday. He's got the game at night. So we taped them both, just so you know. We taped them both last night. Nothing has changed because we didn't ask him anything that would have any effect at all from last night. And now we're doing the open, and we're going to do the close today. And Michael is here, and Nigel is here. And Michael, first of all, and I think people are going to want to know this, how did Team Coco do in the Monday tournament that you played in?
Team Coco placed, barely. We were the last winner, but we did place.
Credit.
I aged a few years going around with Mr. Creedon, Mr. Campbell and
Courtney
Coco,
Ferry.
our fearless leader. Arch taught me some new vocabulary. He had a 2-for-1 though. I'd already buried the birdie putt, and the way they compute for net is something that I've never done before, and it left me a little bit confused. But I just followed them around, had a great time.
That's good.
Reminder to me about the power of clubs. I was so jealous of you because I saw you playing with a few of your friends when I went out to practice last week, and I'm just looking up at Creedon, who is someone who I sort of followed when I was just learning the game, and he'd come up to me and just casually give me a few
Good player.
lessons. And just the power of staying at one club and sort of being around that community and growing up there.
So that's good. So you had a good time. Everybody on the team made $25 shop credit.
Yeah, going towards your new driver.
That would be great. I want to get a new driver, so that's interesting. Did I tell you the deer story?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, this happened. I didn't, because Michael wasn't here. This happened on Monday morning. I came back with the dog at about, I don't know, 10 to 7, right around there. And I come in the back way from the alley with the dog on this morning walk. That is our tradition. I take the leash off the dog.
And it's bright at this point.
It's very bright. Oh, sure. I take the leash off the dog. The dog saunters straight to the front and waits for me to pick up the Frisbees. That is what we do. In this particular case, the dog did not saunter straight to the front. The dog took a left and went near the forsythias. It's very dense in that area, and the dog, something was up. I assumed the dog smelled a rabbit. That's what I assumed.
Sure.
I assumed a chase would ensue and a rabbit would be dead. That's because that's what regularly happens. And when I say regularly, I mean only when she chases a rabbit in the backyard, which is rare. It's rare that this happens, but I've seen it happen enough and put enough dead rabbits in bags and thrown them out that I know what's going to happen. I hear movement in the underbrush. I look over there. A full-grown deer. A full-grown deer leaps out from behind the bushes, takes 3 or 4 steps, jumps over the fence, never to be seen again. The deer was taller than I. A full-grown deer. It took 2 seconds. That's all.
They're very
2 seconds.
So not a doe, a deer. A full-grown deer.
You know, Ray, a drop of golden sun. Fa. Yeah. So, I saw that, and I was stunned, amazed and stunned. What was the deer doing there? It's too late. This is not the season where deers give birth.
Right.
And by the way, if a deer had given birth, the deer would have fought the dog.
Yeah.
And a dog, I fought the law and the law won. The deer would have beaten the dog.
Yeah, the deer's got the numbers on that one.
Yeah, but I assume it's a she. So I didn't see any points. So the deer leaps and the dog feels pretty good. I understand why the dog feels good about this. But had the deer said, really? You want a piece of me? I think it might have gone the other way.
Yeah, but in Jessie's mind, she won that battle.
Oh, yes.
100%. She's like, yeah, there you go. The saunter returns.
Say it walking.
Yeah,
Yes.
all the practice with the Frisbees.
Yes, that was so really good. You watched last night, the match was on. For people that don't know what this is a TNT production. It usually has Phil Mickelson and or Tiger Woods, but it almost always has Phil Mickelson. I've always thought it was entertaining. Last night it was just with quarterbacks, and you liked it.
I think they finally found their secret sauce. Now, again, the match is something that started as like the biggest duel between Tiger and Phil in Vegas, where they had to go to a wedge off in darkness, and no one. You were promised side bets. None of that happened.
Never happened.
Phil developed a character that at times was charming, was sort of intelligent, but also overwhelming. He was the entire broadcast.
Yes.
And then they tried to plug in various quarterbacks with Brady and Manning.
And they put it on TNT, so Charles was always around.
Yes, and this was the first one where you say they finally figured out it's back in Vegas. They made it 12 holes so that it felt like it actually was going to end. And they give him these cards that go forever. And Charles, I would listen to him just describe the happenings on anyone's street as it goes up and down. He's ribbing Brady, be like, oh, that Atlanta Super Bowl, I was celebrating at halftime with something a little bit bigger than beer, if you know what I mean. So they.
Did you know that Charles sent me a picture of his grandson the other day?
It just makes me happy because he'd always end every interview with you like, Tony, say hi to your family.
No, because his grandson is Henry. And he heard me on PTI mention Henry. And so he said, I'll show it to you.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
So you get the four biggest quarterbacks who are clearly avid golfers. They're larger than life figures, but then you see them address the ball, and they look like anybody you would be paired with. Their mannerisms, the way they grip the club, the sort of nervous tics that they develop as it gets into a serious moment. It was tremendous fun. At one point, they go to Patrick Mahomes. They're like, "What are you doing?" And he's cracking open a tall boy, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm just trying to keep it pretty regular out here. This is like my fourth one. It's fine." Hey, Josh, you want to get into the cooler? And you're thinking, when's the last time that I saw Josh Allen and Mahomes together on the field?
Yeah.
The coolest thing they do is they let them take a mulligan where they have to throw football. Looked about 20 yards to Jake from State Farm, who's holding up the heads on stick of Charles, and to then see them switch gears, where immediately they look to their left or right and they identify one of their playing partners, and they just throw it as hard as they can back and forth. And of course, every one of them hits the head. It ends up with Rodgers sinking a 12-footer for birdie. He took it far more seriously than everyone else except for Brady, who wore pants because he probably a little bit nervous about the Cavs compared to the other guys.
So you enjoyed it?
You know what?
I stayed.
It was a Wednesday night.
It didn't mean much.
They don't have to deal with trying to schedule this around real golf because they don't have golfers in it.
Yeah. I'm glad. Well, I hope it did well, and I hope they continue to do it. I will get out of here after I tell this. This is not even a story. This is an appeal to whoever is listening who can help with this. A couple of years ago, I got a new AT&T iPhone, right? Is that what it is?
Well, you got a new one this past fall of 2021.
Okay, so, less than a year ago then. It doesn't work in my house. I have to call Matt Kelleher every day. I have to call Julia every day. I have to call people and do work. And it cuts out all the time. Now, it never cuts out in my car, so that tells me, and I'm not technologically savvy, but that tells me the phone is good. Something's happening in my house with the service. This is Tracy's analysis as well, and I think yours too, Michael.
It's been this way since I was a kid.
You know, we have bad... I have to use a landline now. I never had to do that before. I've been doing this for a while, having these calls with Matt, and then Matt and Julia, and the phone stops. It just stops. And thank God I have a landline, and I go to the landline.
Yeah.
What is this? Is it my neighborhood? Is it my specific house? Is AT&T doing something? Is it out of AT&T's hands? Is it a provider? Is it, Verizon? Is it Comcast? It doesn't affect the show, the television show. We're fine on that. It affects my phone.
You opened with a lot of very practical questions. It could be the way that your house is constructed, but always look at your phone and see what your coverage looks like, because you might find if you sit in one part of your house, you have better coverage than in another area. Now, do you have Wi-Fi turned on your phone?
I don't know what that means.
Do you? Oh gosh.
I mean, I can go to settings. I think it's on.
Yes. When we look at the top right.
But Tracy believes that I'm not getting sufficient Wi-Fi.
So you're
Can
getting.
I buy Wi-Fi?
So these are two
Can someone come to my house and hand me Wi-Fi?
Like right now, I can tell you our Wi-Fi is full bars. Now the cell phone.
This is
service
where I
is
sit.
not.
The what?
The cell phone bars, we have one bar for phone coverage.
So is that is an AT&T situation?
That is an AT&T issue that was...
AT&T charges me a lot of money every single month, like $175, somewhere in that neighborhood, every single month. And if my service stinks, why am I paying it?
There's no reason. Yeah. I mean, that whole thing comes down to coverage. And if you can't get coverage in...
Tracy said something about them all going to 5G, and me maybe having 4G and being left in the dust.
I think we can look to the Little House to solve this. You should offer to get a 5G tower up on the roof.
Oh, there you go.
Just welcome the new neighbors.
This is no good. I mean, I'm sitting and doing my work, and I can't do my work.
The most frustrating thing is when you're in your own house and your phone...
I'm paying money for this, and I don't have it. So if someone who works for AT&T is listening, or someone who knows what I'm talking about is listening, so, just send me that. Don't tell me who you sat next to on a plane anymore. We're done with that.
Want to hear my top three?
What's your top three?
No, I don't have any.
Oh. That's it. We've had that. Who have I sat next to? Sat next to Wilbon. Sat next to Michael Wilbon. So
They did cover a lot of that Wi-Fi
sat next to
stuff.
Alan Bubis.
Did sit next to Alan,
Right
yeah.
next to the socialite.
They did cover a lot of that Wi-Fi stuff in biology for non-majors. I'm not sure if you.
No, there was no Wi-Fi then.
wasn't.
I am too old to understand these things. I'm too old. That's why I'm asking for help.
Right.
You know, I ask for help on things I don't understand. You know what I really don't ask for help on? Sports writing. I understand that. Don't ask for help on that. Don't need help on that. But I need help with this, with AT&T.
Let's start by
They're killing
having you
me.
walk around the main level of the house and just see if your coverage changes from room to room or by certain windows.
All right, we're going to take a break. You know, we're going to come back. Who are we coming back with?
With Wilbon.
We're going to come back with Wilbon. During that period of time, since Wilbon's in the can already,
Right.
during that period of time, I'm going to get my phone, I'm going to show it to Michael, and when we get out of here, you know, maybe there'll be an update of some sort. Internally, because we can't have an update. You haven't heard this yet. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Most of us spend more time every day in our office chair than in our cars or our beds. That's why it's so important to invest in the right chair so you'll spend those hours with the right level of support and comfort to get the most productivity out of your day. X-Chair will make the time you spend at your desk not only more productive, but it will become your favorite place to sit for any reason. And I said this the other day. You just roll the X-Chair from room to room in your house. And you keep sitting in it. Not only does X-Chair's patented dynamic variable lumbar, spelled correctly today, or DVL, or for the ultimate customized support, but X-Chair can even give you a massage. Plus, it can heat up or cool down depending on what you need. And now, thanks to X-Chair's new FS, the Frank Sinatra 360 armrest. And it's like a Rat Pack deal. You adjust it. You adjust your armrest to the perfect position. All these unique X-Chair features will help the hours at your desk fly by in complete comfort. And that's why I really think you'll love your X-Chair. So do this. Go to xchairtony.com now. That's the letter X, chair, TONY.com. Or you can call 1-844-4. There's an extra 4 there. X-Chair for $100 off your order. X-Chair has a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort, and you can finance your purchase for as little as $30 a month. xchairtony.com. Use the code, people. My throat is catching because, and I've noticed this early in the morning when I go out with the dog and I inhale pollen or
Tree
whatever's
pollen.
out there.
Tree pollen, the strings of it.
And I don't even know what's going on. And then I go to talk and I can't. And I apologize to everybody for these bad reads, but they show a human side of me that I know you like.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the music of Coleman Mellett. He himself is no longer with us. This was sent in by his brother, Zebulon Mellett, of Barrington, Rhode Island, 65.8 miles south of Revere. Coleman was the math class of 92. And his brother writes, some of the best musicians in the world, led by Grammy Award-winning producer, keyboardist, and close friend Barry Miles, collaborated to round out these songs and complete the album. Chuck Mangione is on it. James Taylor is on it. They lent their time and talents to give these songs everything they deserve. This is a lovely song. This is called Come On Home. And again, it is Coleman Mellett, no longer with us, but the music lives on. Plays in Michael Wilbon. Wilbon is in San Francisco. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is tomorrow night. I'm not even going to fool around on this. We're going to start with it. In your heart and soul, who do you think is going to win this series? And please feel free to talk about the ESPN BPI and the nonsense that we were exposed to today.
Is there anything dumber than something that says there's an 86% chance that any team is going to beat Golden State? There's not even an 86% chance that the 96 Bulls would beat Golden State. 86% chance, really? We got 3 guys going to the Hall of Fame.
Yes, they
Who've
do.
been playing really well all spring and really seem to be coming into their own right now. Like I don't know that they're vintage. They had one vintage game. I don't know that they're vintage. Like they're like, you know, they were in 2015-16. But 86% chance that the Boston Celtics, who tried to give away Game 7 in Miami, are going to beat Golden State. This is stupid. There's so much stupid stuff now, and it's all tied to numbers. And you even get tired of me when I when I threaten and curse everything tied to numbers, because everything is tied to numbers. People are lazy. They don't.
Well, I just don't know. I don't know how it is factored. I don't know what the ESPN BPI is, and I don't know who's running these numbers. Because if you come out 86%, Mike, means there should be a sweep. Boston should sweep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now you sound as angry as I usually am.
In this particular case, I think it's stupid. Forget the BPI. Who do you think will win the series ultimately?
I think Golden State will win the series. I don't know how many games. I do want. There's certain things I want to see. It's interesting that the only team Steve Kerr has a losing record against in his tenure as the head coach of the Warriors is the Celtics.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Marcus Smart has guarded Steph Curry over a period of years. Marcus Smart been in the league 8 years now. He's guarded Steph Curry. That's not a small sample size. He's guarded Steph Curry better than anyone. So this is not, incidental. But I will say this. Like, people will say, well, is this Golden State team as good as 2016? No. But they are, perhaps Tony, is more potent. I mean, Jordan Poole could be 80% as prolific as Steph Curry, who's the greatest shooter of all time. And now you've got Klay Thompson. Klay has a chip on his shoulder. And it's not about somebody else or anybody else talking trash to him. It's not that. Klay just wants to prove that he can be the Klay Thompson we knew before he got hurt. And that's a massive undertaking. And it shows you about the maturity and the self-awareness of Klay Thompson. And he came out like March 15th and he said, I'm not back yet. I can't guard people like I used to. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. And it takes time. They think, all these dopes who want to tell you how great they are. Klay Thompson, who is great, who I voted for in my top 75 all time, Klay Thompson said, nah, I'm not there yet. But Tony, he's about there now. And so that's going to make Steph Curry more effective. Because Klay Thompson's the guy. Like, Klay is as great as Steph Curry is. The guy who kills you when you play Golden State. When Klay Thompson hits 4 or 5 threes in a row, you can just see teams, they just go away. Cause it's time to go home. Because they can't answer that. So you mentioned the Warriors are close to that.
Yeah. You mentioned Poole. You've also come to like Wiggins, who you hated when he played in Minnesota. You hated him.
Yeah. Yes, because he was the best player they had. Now he's the 5th best player on Golden State. Just imagine the effectiveness. Imagine how you feel when you walk on the floor, when you did not respond well to the pressure of being the number 1 overall player drafted. You just didn't. You couldn't make the playoffs. You had a tough teammate, Jimmy Butler, who was demanding, and you didn't really understand it when he was there. And then you get traded. And you wind up on Golden State. So instead of being the overall number 1 pick, you're just a guy. You're a dude that people don't even expect that much from.
That's right.
And your teammates are Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Come on, man. And now Jordan Poole. You're the 5th best guy.
Yeah. So I look at this, and to me, if I had one thing that I was curious about, the thing that I think enables Boston to win if they win, is how effective is Smart on Curry when you want to deny Curry the shot, and how effective are the much bigger Boston defenders on what is, when Golden State is going well, they are a small team. They're a small team, right? That to me, I think we'll learn by the end of game 2. I think we'll learn who's going to win the series. I really believe that. But what do you think?
I can see that, Tony. I can see that. I wonder the same thing while I'm picking Golden State. I wonder, look, Tatum and Brown and Kendrick Perkins alluded to this today. They are two-way players. They can defend you. It's not just Marcus Smart, although Marcus Smart is the best of them. Al Horford. Here's the other thing is Robert Williams, who could not play much in that series before, because this guy got a serious knee injury. I mean, listen, there are people that folks rail against for taking nights off and not playing. James Harden talking his way out of 2 cities. People like Robert Williams and Jimmy Butler, come on, man. These guys would be, their doctors would tell them, and they probably did already, you shouldn't be playing tonight. And they do. And so Robert Williams couldn't be Robert Williams except for a couple of games. But now he's going to have had 3 days off. I expect him to be Robert Williams, especially the first couple if he can avoid re-injury. And Tony, so they got a host of defenders, and they're long.
Yeah, they are.
So you raise a great point. In the meantime, Golden State's small. And, I'm not in love with small ball. The reason I like Golden State has nothing to do with size. It has to do with skill. I'm not a small ball guy. Because I remember how great the Bulls were when they had guys 6'6" and 6'7", and Scottie Pippen 6'8", Robinson 6'8". They weren't big. They weren't huge. But great and large is better than great and small.
I think that's true.
So like you, I'm willing to. I'm wanting to see what happens.
I want to see. You don't honestly think in your heart. You don't honestly think these are the two best teams in the NBA, do you? You don't really think that.
I think that they are the two teams least bothered by the expectations, and that somehow got to Phoenix, and I don't really know why. Like, I haven't had a chance, and I will coming up, to just sit. I'll sit at a restaurant in Scottsdale with Devin and with Chris, and I'll just listen to them.
Yeah.
Because they're really smart, perceptive guys, and they're basketball thinkers, and they will have answered their own questions about what the hell happened. So I think that they were the best team, but they weren't equipped to deal with something they faced. Something, I don't know what it is.
No, and I understand that, but I think Phoenix and Milwaukee are the two best teams. There are different reasons why they lost. I think if Middleton is healthy, I think they win.
You're right. Right. You know what?
I do.
Look, Tony, I picked Miami and Milwaukee to make the Eastern Conference Finals in the first day of the season. I did pretty good on that.
You got one out of
Middleton
two.
didn't play. And to me, Golden State and Phoenix, we didn't know Denver was going to be as injured as they wound up being very early on. But Golden State, yes. Golden State is, because, Tony, they're just smarter. They're smarter. From the general manager, Bob Myers, who doesn't get nearly enough credit, to Steve Kerr, to the assistant coaches, to Draymond and Clay and Steph, and Andre Iguodala, who's like an assistant coach over there now. That's why they got him back. They're smarter. They're mentally tougher. Mental toughness, to me, while people fixate on numbers, I fixate on who's mentally tougher. Like, I'll take Jimmy Butler, and you can have almost anybody else in the league. Because Jimmy Butler, as we just saw again in the playoffs, he's mentally tougher than almost everybody. Even though he's not as good, he can take you out with what he's got. And so I think that Golden State has enough of both the talent, the natural talent, skill, and the toughness, mental toughness, that they're going to. And Boston still does too many weird things. Like, they almost gave away Game 7. They tried to give away Game 7. They did give away Game 6. So I just think if you do that with Golden State, they're gonna hurt you. They're gonna cut your heart out.
Are you not so fabulously enthralled with the notion that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving left these teams to go play together in Brooklyn, and these teams without them are in the finals?
Yes, you have to be captivated by that.
Yes.
And to me, like, I don't understand the seduction of Kyrie Irving, which, Tony, is not just like knuckleheads. How about Mike Krzyzewski? I mean, Kyrie Irving has been seducing people. It's not just like young dopes like my dear child, who I love more than anything on the planet, who basically will just tell you, I love him. I love Kyrie Irving. Yeah. And he will now, because he plays basketball at point guard, and because he plays on the AAU teams, plays on a variety of teams, he's on Gonzaga, his high school summer league team already. He plays on good teams. He's become a pretty good little thinker on the basketball court. And I say to him, what are you doing? How are you seduced by this clown? And he has answers now. He doesn't just say, Dad, I don't know. He has answers. Just like, but there are people, my son doesn't matter in the history of basketball. Mike Krzyzewski matters.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant matters. These people are seduced by this guy. And so it's interesting, Tony, because the players in the league line up on one side. And I will just say this without giving out too much. So Chris Paul, who we think the opposite of Kyrie Irving, is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yes.
Chris Paul has said to Matthew, sit down and explain to me why you're fascinated by Kyrie Irving. That's as far as he'll go. These two are peers. They have to play against each other, and Chris Paul's never going to just sort of go after somebody. That's not his method. But he said to Matthew with a quizzical look, and so there's half the league is seduced by him, including Kevin Durant.
I understand.
He left Steph Curry, this incense-throwing lunatic.
Yeah. Well, there's
And
a great
so,
line in
what does that
broadcast
mean?
news. What do you think the devil's going to look like? It's just... All right, let me get to one other question. I think Curry and Thompson are certainly in the running, if not way ahead of everybody else, as the greatest guard combination in the history of the NBA. But to that end, Mike, to that end, I wrote down a few others.
Okay.
Frazier and Monroe.
I was going to say Frazier Monroe. That comes off the top.
Frazier and Monroe. I'll even say Sloan and Van Leer, though they didn't win.
No.
But as guards, okay.
No, I love them.
Isaiah and Vinnie Johnson.
Yeah. Well, Isaiah and Joe Dumars.
Oh, yeah. And
Vinnie Johnson,
yeah.
the third. Joe Dumars. Yeah. Yes.
Sam and KC.
Yes. You know,
And Magic
the other
and Byron Scott.
Yes.
I mean...
To be in the guard the other night, Tony, when... Now, you forgot his pair. I'm going to tell you about in a second. When to sit there and watch on the big screen in the Boston Guard, or whatever name, still Boston Guard, and watch when they play clips of Sam and KC. Gives me goosebumps. Like, I think there's probably only 2% of the arena that even knows what's going on. And for me, I got to hold back tears. But let me just say to you, Tony, the greatest guard combination of all time is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
I just considered Pippen to be not a guard.
He's the point guard. He's the point guard. I don't care how they introduce him. I don't care if they introduce John Paxson or Steve Kerr.
Right.
The guards on that team, who had the ball at the end of the game? Scottie Pippen had the ball. I
did it by sight.
Yeah, you did it by the listing of position. That's fair. Monroe and Frazier in my childhood, I watched them go up against Sloan and Van Leer. My father took me to the arena, and we got to see. Hey, how about West and Goodrich?
Yeah, but
they averaged 50.
Yeah.
5-0, 5-0.
So,
I mean, you know what else? Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. They won multiple titles.
They did, but they don't win them without. They don't win them without the big man. They don't win them without Dunk.
That's right.
You can make a lot of cases.
True.
The only point I would make here is that Golden State is different than other teams now. Golden State is not a big team. Get it in the middle. They're not. They're not that.
No, they're too. Well, see, that's what makes Draymond Green so valuable. And people will get mad because Draymond has temper tantrums, so they miss the point. Like, Draymond has to be that guy. Look at the other personalities on Golden State. Nobody says boo. You can't have that. Like, the Bulls have one of those Boy Scout teams now with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. You can't have that. That gets you beat. There's a reason why Draymond Green has the value beyond the physical value. The temperament. Draymond Green knows what he's doing, and all you have to do is be there 5 minutes after those tirades where he gets thrown out of the game, and you're sitting there talking to Draymond for half an hour, and it's like talking to a librarian. It's great. So you're right, Tony. They don't have any of that. They got, but those two guys. Look, time may prove that they're the best backcourt. If they win another title, or God knows two.
If they win another one, that's 4, and that's big time. That's big time, especially without Durant. That's what I'm rooting for. Anyway, all right, enjoy yourself tomorrow night, and I'll see you on TV.
Looking forward to it.
Actually, tonight. It's tonight. This is airing Thursday.
Tonight.
To full disclosure, we're doing this with Wilbon on Wednesday evening, so I have my dates wrong. All right, I'll talk to you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Tom.
Michael Wilbon, boys and girls. Next up is a friend of mine, Eric Sedransk, who's doing something in golf that has never been done before, and we're going to talk about it. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is a solo stove read. Life's best moments happen around a roaring fire, and a smokeless fire pit from Solo Stove makes your outdoor moments even more memorable. Because instead of having to constantly dodge campfire fumes, you can sit back, relax, and actually enjoy the fire. There's nothing like a roaring fire to bring you back to what matters. The things digital distractions and the frenzy of everyday life make too easy to forget. That's lovely words. And I want to get a Solo Stove. I want to sit around a Solo Stove. Excuse me, not tonight. It's 95 degrees tonight. I could make fire. I could put paper outside and spontaneous combustion.
You should not go into our attic then.
It's too hot.
It's 120 plus. It broke the internet.
It's just too hot. It's too hot. Tell you so. You've sat around Solo Stove.
It's
Tell
too
the
hot.
story.
It's nearly smokeless. We are recommending this to Ron and Liz up in New Jersey. So with their new house, they are using the code. And what's so great right now is once these nights cool off a little bit, we're getting the deck power washed, so you can just sit out there all night long. It's going to be a short walk for you.
Yes, it is.
Once you're in the same
down
zip
the road.
code.
Update your backyard with a Solo Stove fire pit and create story-worthy moments without the fireside fumes. Stainless steel construction designed to regulate airflow and burn more efficiently. So little smoke you wonder how there's so much fire. Build lasting memories around a Solo Stove fire pit. It's easy to light. With a few bits of starter, your fire is blazing in minutes. And by the way, they offer a lifetime warranty and a 30-day free return policy. Right now, you can shop Solo Stove's best deals yet during their Memorial Day sale. It's still going on. Use the promo code TonyK at solostove.com for an extra $10 off. That's solostove.com, promo code TonyK for $10 off the top on their incredible Memorial Day discounts, which are there anyway. But hurry, because the Memorial Day sale ends June 5th and today's June 1st. No, today's June 2nd.
Today's June 2nd.
Today's June 2nd. Yesterday was June 1st.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Once again, we play the music of Coleman Mellett, sent to us by his brother Zebulon Mellett. The name of this song, it's really a nice tune. As life goes on, the irony in that is obvious, since for Coleman Mellett, the music goes on, long beyond life at this point. Michael, if people want to send in their children's music or their brothers and sisters' music or their cousins' music, somebody close to them who can't send it in for themselves, how do they do it?
Send us your music by emailing it to jingles@TonyKornheiserShow.com.
Can we get to Eric now? What do you think, Sean? Is Eric on the line? Are we good?
Eric is there.
Fantastic. We're going to bring in Eric Sedransk. This name means nothing to you, but it means a lot to me because he is the son of my late friend Ira Sedransk, who I went to grade school with and junior high with and high school with and used to be part of the group that came to Delaware and played golf all the time. And we took a lot of Ira's money because he wasn't as good as the rest of us, which always made me happy. Although he was a much better athlete than most of us. He did triathlons. None of the rest of us would try that. Eric, you're in the golf business now, and you do something that has had extraordinary impact in a very short period of time. Tell everybody who listens, all dozens of them, what is Member for a Day and what do you do?
Yeah, Tony, first of all, just thanks for having me on. I know my dad would be really excited about this right now. The short really is that at Member for a Day, we auction off once-in-a-lifetime golf experiences for charity.
Where, though? Like, you got to tell the people where they can play sometimes.
Yeah, we've auctioned off rounds at something like 75 of the top 100 clubs in the country.
Wow.
You're talking about Marion, Congressional, Bel Air. We've auctioned off rounds of golf with Ken Griffey Jr. at Grove 23. We've auctioned off a round of golf with Bill Murray at Sleepy Hollow. We do a lot of stuff with pro athletes and celebrities. And like I said, most of the premier, private, super exclusive golf clubs around the country.
Okay. How did you come up? This is for charity now. Everybody has to sign off on this. The charities have to sign off. The clubs have to sign off. The people who are going to host, the people who buy these things have to sign off. How did you come up with this, and was there ever any resistance to it?
Yeah, so I like to call myself an accidental entrepreneur in the sense that I had gotten laid off from my tech job in New York City during COVID. And while I was in Hilton Head at my mother's house, feeling really, really guilty because here I am in 70-degree weather, essentially protected, quote unquote, from COVID. Everyone in New York City is taping their windows shut. And it was that guilt that led me to launch my own charity auction. And that was in support of New York City hospital frontline workers. And that initial one just kind of went crazy on social media. And with the help of a lot of other people, I was able to raise over $100,000 in a week, which equated to over 12,000 meals that we purchased from local restaurants and delivered them to hospital frontline workers in New York City. And so that was really all I was trying to do. This wasn't some business school business plan and grandiose visions of creating a charity fundraising behemoth. And then as fate would have it, Golf Magazine saw what I did, wrote an article, and a few weeks later, the New York Post, I think a friend of yours, Mark Cannizzaro, their lead sports writer, wrote an article about me, and that's when things changed. I had about 20 nonprofits, including the American Cancer Society, reach out to me, arguably the largest nonprofit in the world, and said something to the degree of, hey, Eric, what you did was really cool. Do you think you could do that for us? And that's how it all started.
So in X amount of months or years, how much money has Member for a Day raised for a variety of charities?
So we, at this point, are pretty much on the 2-year mark, almost exactly. And we have now raised over $3 million.
Just unbelievable. And what, I guess the other question I would have is, why didn't they think of it on their own before? You know what I mean? Why? I mean, you just drove the car right through the tunnel, right?
I think it's a fair question. I think it's, if we're talking about it from a pure business perspective, it's a classic fragmented industry in the sense that there are golf tournaments, charity outings all over the country, and they have auctions, right? It's normally the table on the side, and they might have a round of golf. They also might have, I don't know, some jewelry or something. But the problem that we're solving, Tony, and I think you know this, is the worst thing that could happen, in my opinion, is it's one thing to get a round of Shinnecock donated to auction off. It's a whole nother thing if that round of golf sells for $2,000 or $3,000, whereas on our platform it might raise $12,000 to $15,000, right? So in my mind, that is $10,000 of lost money that should have gone to the charity. But I think to answer your question, there's, like you said initially, there's a lot of constituencies, right? I think the most obvious one is the private country club landscape is conservative, right? And yes, it's changing though, right? I mean, we saw it with, the group Dude Perfect. They're hitting hockey sticks around Augusta National a week before the Masters or whatever it was filmed. So things are changing, and I'd like to think that what I'm doing could not have happened. Of course, I needed the internet, but could not have happened 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. But I think ultimately the reason that it is succeeding is because the clubs understand that what we're doing is not golf now for private golf courses. It is to solve the problem, like I said, of maximizing the amount of charitable impact that amazing golf experience can have by reaching a broader audience.
So I'm sure you know this. I don't go anywhere near the internet because I'm on the internet and I don't want to see what is said about me. But how do you get, is it the internet that interests Bill Murray or Ken Griffey or all these other famous people you have who are members at Club X and Club Y to call you to say, I'll host 3 people? How does that work?
So the reason that this all works is that the nonprofit is responsible for the golf experiences. And the reason that's important is a few things. One, frankly, it would be pretty much impossible for me and my team to do it by ourselves. But secondly, and this is the more important one, is how, if I could get around with Ken Griffey Jr., let's say I know him or whatever and he'll donate his time, how am I supposed to decide if that should go to the American Cancer Society or the ALS Association, right? But if the nonprofit gets it themselves, it's very clear where that money goes. So we actually don't get the golf experiences ourselves. We are just the platform that is able to get those experiences in front of, up to, our audience is about 25,000 people across the country at this point.
So this is the only thing that might come off as semi-critical. And this is what I want to ask you about. Yeah. Some of these clubs are great, and they are beyond the reach of so many people. I mean, you're never going to play there. What happens? I mean, there's a certain morality and a certain fairness in my mind that anybody should be able to do this. But if it's for charity, somebody's going to swoop in with much more money than 95% of the people who would like to do it. Do you have any sort of problem with that, or do you see the mission as raising money for charities and it's okay, if hedge fund people and venture capitalists and, people who created Tesla, want to buy this?
Yeah, and I've thought about this a lot. And the short answer is yes, you're right. A lot of our audience, or our community, I should say, are real estate and finance professionals. So that is spot on. So, from my perspective, I've thought about this since day one. I don't want to become just another platform for rich people to play great golf courses. And so I think what you'll see from our platform as we start to grow larger is we're going to do more sweepstakes, right? Because sweepstakes, anyone can afford, or not anyone, but most people can afford, a $10 or $20 entry for the chance to win a round at Wingfoot. And to me, that's important because...
So it's like a raffle. Is that what
exactly.
You're like? Okay.
That's right. Because, Tony, I didn't really grow up as a golfer, but I grew up in Westchester. I used to drive by the gates of Wingfoot and stare at it, and just in my mind, I will never play this course. And so to me, it's really important that average Joe has a chance. You know, it might not be a great chance, but at least they have a chance to play Wingfoot.
When you drove by Wingfoot, did you ever say, "I'll own this damn track one day"? Did you ever do that? That would have been cool if you did that. I mean, I've been, because of celebrity, I've been able to play so many great courses. I've been extraordinarily lucky. I just think what you're doing is fabulous. I mean, you should take a lot of credit for doing it. Tell us what the latest one is, because this has to do with your dad. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So this one is especially important to me, and obviously you as well. You know, this is something we've been working on now for the greater part of a year. So we are actually launching today in partnership with Major League Baseball Players Alumni Association and the ALS Association, which, for full context, it's the disease that my father passed away from a little over 2 years ago.
And I should interject that the reason it would have something to do with baseball is because it's Lou Gehrig. He is the most famous person to have ever contracted this. Yes, Lou Gehrig.
That's exactly right. And so Lou Gehrig's Day, which is obviously a huge day in Major League Baseball. So we're launching an auction where we have over 20 former greats, including Raleigh Fingers and Goose Gossage and AJ Przinsky, JT Snow, all around the country at amazing golf courses. I mean, AJ Przinsky is hosting at Grove 23, JT Snow's at Cal Club. I mean, you know, these are really great clubs with amazing. If you're a baseball player, this is a pretty cool way to just spend 5 hours with potentially one of your heroes.
All right. And will you play in this? Will you try to play in it? I mean, just, you know, for your dad, will you try and play in it?
I don't know. I didn't give it any thought. You know, for me, Tony, the only thing that I'm focused on is growing this platform, because, you know, me playing is not the best use of my time right now. The best use of my time is figuring out ways to scale this platform out and do larger and larger auctions every day. So I'm just focused on, you know, getting this auction out to as many people as possible so we can raise as much money, because frankly, watching my father lose the ability, and you said it early on, you know, he was a triathlete, so it wasn't like he was just sitting on the couch eating bonbons. He was like the most mobile person I knew, and to watch him for 5 years slowly lose the ability to walk is all the motivation I need to raise as much money as possible so that the next generation doesn't have to go through what I did.
You're a pretty good player, though, aren't you, Eric? You can play.
I was pretty good. I kind of stopped grinding, but I am a 6 handicap still, according to the gin.
That's pretty good, 6. Michael, you could just give him one aside and you could probably play it.
We'll have to see my adjust.
You mentioned Grove 23 a couple of times. I have to tell you, I know a couple of people who are members at Grove 23, and I have been invited, and I just haven't gone anywhere in over 2 years now. I haven't gone. But Grove 23 sounds so cool. There are no governors on the carts. These people are flying. They're going 30 and 40 miles an hour. And the only thing, I think the only rule at Grove 23 is if Jordan wants to play through, you have to let him. I'm honestly not sure that there's any other rule at Grove 23. So that would be, you know, the fact that Ken Griffey is a member and took people out there. Have you found feedback afterwards? What people who hosted think of the people who played with them, whether they think it's a good idea? Have you had repeat situations?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, Ken Griffey Jr. is a perfect example, because he hosted one round at Grove and then another at his home course, Isleworth, where I think he lives.
Yeah.
So he's a perfect example. So the answer is yes. You know, I think that's the ultimate here, is that it's a win-win-win. And I mean that in the sense that, like, obviously it's a win for the charities, but the ultimate thing is if we can actually create connections, genuine connections between host and winners, that's the ultimate win. And I see it all the time, right? A guy wins around an Interlaken, he's a member of Wannamoyset, he says, hey, come out this summer, and next thing you know, they're playing separately from our platform, and it's making the world a closer place. I think, so to answer your question, yes, you know, of course, like any large scale platform, we're always going to have some bad apples, but thankfully, like, we really haven't had many, because, and this is maybe a little bit of my naivety, is that I think if we're doing this for the right reasons, which of course we are, being that it's for charity, that we're going to attract the right people, and we're not going to attract a lot of, I guess, jerks for better course.
So if people want to get involved in this, if they want to be involved in your auction, what do they log on to see what you're doing?
Yeah, so the easiest place is go to our website, which is memberforaday.com, all spelled out, all the letters. And, the ALS one, like I said, launches today, but we have auctions launching pretty much every week. Sometimes we have multiple auctions launching every week. So, hop on there, click on the link to the auction, subscribe to our email list, follow us on Instagram. And if you want to play amazing once-in-a-lifetime golf experiences while supporting great charities, we are the place to be.
Your dad would be very, very proud of you. Say hi at home to your mom, okay? Thanks,
I
Eric.
appreciate that, Tony. Thank you.
Eric Sedransk, boys and girls. Something we don't usually do. We will take a break. We have email and jingle. When we come back, I am Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show. The Tony Kornheiser Show.
Here comes Tony's mailbag. Got your emails, faxes, and your notes. Here comes Tony's mailbag. Gonna read some for all of you folks.
That's skipping all over the place. Sean, did you hear that? That's skipping all over the place.
I did, but I'll fix it in post.
It must be your cell phone coverage.
Yeah, it's probably the Wi-Fi.
AT&T is killing me. They're killing me.
We walked around the front of the house. Dad has to stand at the doorway.
I can't stand in the doorway and conduct these calls and take notes. I can't take
I'll move
notes
a chair.
standing. It's a joke. AT&T, you're just
killing me.
Yeah, you're taking my money. You're stealing my money under false pretenses. It's very simple. Nice to do the Bethesda Bagel.
Bethesda Bagels, we love them. You will as well. All you need to do is go to BethesdaBagels.com for a location in the DC area nearest you. Then pop on in, my friend, and you'll be thrilled.
That'll just about do it for us today. Before we get to the mailbag, let me say I walked 47 miles of barbed wire. I got a cobra snake for a necktie. A brand new house up on the roadside. It's made out of rattlesnake hide. Got a brand new chimney put on top, and it's made out of human skull. Come on, baby, take a walk with me and tell me, who do you love? Now, you may know that from George Thorogood and the Delaware Destroyers. But that's a Bo Diddley song. That's a Bo Diddley song, and everybody knows the Bo Diddley beat. Bo Diddley. Thanks to our guests today, Michael Wilbon and Eric Sedransk. Thanks to today's sponsors, Solo Stove and Sunday. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and Odyssey. If you get the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Our great thanks to Cane Bay High School, and I'm glad that Sean will fix that in post.
Time to celebrate your recent grads and Father's Day. And we have a little Bootsy who's turning 5. So check out JohnnyO.com. Again, I recommend the Calcutta Shorts, TK Bootsy 5. Bootsy S-I-E.
That's wonderful, TK Bootsy 5.
Yeah, and during the break, Dad showed me a picture of Charles's grandson.
Big.
Yeah, now there's a challenge out for the hammer.
He's a big boy.
We might have the hammer, but we can't take on a Barkley.
Henry is a sturdy little boy.
Yeah.
But Charles's grandson.
See him box out.
From Kevin Hamilton in Ackworth, New Hampshire. It was the spring of 1974. I was a college student in Boston, not Revere, riding the T. At the Park Street station, a stylishly dressed gent in his mid-30s stepped into the car, paused momentarily, then sat down directly to my right, her arms making contact as he settled in. This guy looks just like John Lennon, I said to myself. But his appearance was obviously no accident. I wasn't going to be one to give him the satisfaction of saying, hey man, you look just like John Lennon. So we rode in silence to the next stop where he exited. I didn't give the matter a second thought until the next day when I saw a story in the Boston Globe headline, ex-Beatle John Lennon makes surprise visit to Boston record store. Said record store was located on Park Street where my seatmate got on the T. I immediately said to myself, I'm a loser. And he adds a lot of Beatles songs here, which is nice. But he said, all I had to say was, hey, are you? From Steve the Sycophant. It was the mid-'70s at the then-new Kansas City Royal Stadium. I was selling beer on a very hot summer afternoon as I sweated my way down the aisle close by the seats behind home plate. I was hailed by an elderly man who requested a beer. As I started filling the cup, I realized I was serving the one and only Leroy Satchel Page. I gave him the cup, and as he started to pay me, I just said, this one is on me, Mr. Page. He smiled and said thanks, and that was it. I wanted to talk to him about seeing him pitch in the mid-'50s on a barnstorming joint, but figured he'd heard that story thousands of times before. I just moved on while he sipped away. Joe Carter. This is one about Joe Carter. And it is from Chris Palmer in Thunder Bay in Ontario. It's long. As a lifelong Blue Jays fan and a child born in Canada in the 80s, you just could imagine that seeing Joe Carter was like today's generation meeting Justin Bieber. I casually asked for his autograph on my ticket stub, and we engaged in conversation as he happened to live in Kansas City and was a big Chiefs fan. As we boarded the plane, this is online for the plane, I was kicking myself for not getting a picture with him so I could brag to my childhood friends. When I saw him at the Kansas City airport waiting for our bags, I asked him for a picture, and he politely obliged, and we went our separate ways. So you might be thinking, what makes this encounter any different than the guy in the bathroom next to Paul McCartney? And, he said, as I stood at the shuttle counter looking to book a shuttle to our downtown airport, I felt a poke on my shoulder, only to turn around and see Mr. Carter standing there. He asked me where we were going and follow up by asking if we wanted a ride. Without hesitation or consultation with my wife, I answered yes to allowing a complete stranger to drive us in his car to a city I had never been to. It's just, it's really nice. I mean, it's long.
Joe gives him like a tour of the city. It's amazing.
From Tom DeFelice. In the late 70s, I was living in Boston. I was given a chance to fly to Paris on the Concorde. At this point, it only went from Washington to Paris. I took the Eastern Shuttle to Washington to get on the plane. On the return from Paris, I again landed in Washington and took the Eastern Shuttle to Boston. 5 rows ahead of me was Tip O'Neill. I passed him as we were walking down the concourse. It was the closest I'd ever been to real power. And he said they were trying to get approval to land in New York City, so they gave out a lot of swag. I still have my Concorde leather memo case and key tags. From Rob Jutras, J-U-T-R-A-S, in Trent Woods, North Carolina. Waiting for a night flight, red eye from LAX to Charlotte. I sit only to realize the greatest raider, none other than Marcus Allen, sitting in the boarding area as well. Right behind him, slightly over his head, is an outlet, 13 in my kitchen. People desperately searching for a way to charge their device repeatedly attempted to plug into an outlet that did not work. Over and over again, complete strangers plugged in and left without any satisfaction. I leaned over to Mr. Allen and said that outlet seems to be getting more attention than the greatest raider. He laughed. That's very, very nice. Mark Strickland. Are we still doing this? Only briefly, Mark. If so, please consider my contribution. On a flight from Nashville to Atlanta in the mid-'70s as a toddler, I fell asleep in the lap of one Harlan Colonel Sanders. Yeah, the guy with the chicken. My mom said he was amused by it all and was perfectly content to let me nap for the hour of flight. I've been a fan of the 11 herbs and spices ever since. From Mark Schwab in Brentwood, Tennessee. In 1994, Nolan Richardson was a king in my hometown of Fayetteville, Arkansas. He had just coached our beloved Razorbacks to a national championship. I was an acne-faced 16-year-old. One day I pulled my 1978 Oldsmobile into the Fayetteville Youth Center parking lot with the skill and control you would expect from a new male driver. I narrowly missed a light green Cadillac, threw my Delta 88 in the park and stepped out. Then the driver got out of the Cadillac, and the king of Fayetteville, Roland Nolan, proceeded to verbally destroy me for what seemed like an eternity. He weaved a tapestry of insults and curse words and placed them directly on my shaking shoulders. Almost 30 years later, and I still feel ashamed. From Ed Patterman. Been a big fan for years. Here's a golf celebrity and dad story all in one. 10 years ago, I played in a Pro-Am in Las Vegas with Jack Nicklaus and his son, Steve. Whoa! A Pro-Am in Las Vegas with Jack and Steve Nicklaus. Played at Lake Las Vegas. Jack shot 72, Steve shot 79, I shot 75. We won first place. That night I called my dad, told him I played in a Pro-Am with Jack, and proudly said, Dad, just wanted to let you know that today your son beat the son of Jack Nicklaus. Made my dad very proud. Rob Jones. I'm a dentist in Mesa, Arizona, originally from Lynbrook, and I'm getting new scrubs embroidered with name and practice name on it. Given that you're open to sponsoring golf kids, I was curious if you wanted to sponsor me. Would love to offer extractions for you and your family at no cost in return. I'll hang up and listen. That's funny. From Austin Blake in Scottsdale, Arizona. Not North Scottsdale, where Wilbon
Oh, yeah, no.
Big temperature difference.
The other side of the
Scottsdale,
tracks.
Arizona. After hearing you turn down a D1 athlete for an NIL deal, I figured I'd try my luck next. I just finished the first year of the accounting PhD program at Arizona State University. I don't have a golf bag, jersey, or a hat that I can put your name on, but I can eventually give you an acknowledgement in an academic paper that neither you nor I will ever fully read. Beyond that, my expenses are pretty low, so your sponsorship would go towards playing golf at courses Wilbon would never play and buying halfway decent beer. If this doesn't fit the demographic you're trying to reach, my dog is an ambassador for a pet bandana company on Instagram. I can put your people in touch with his people. It's like a dog influencer. Tim from Alexandria writes, Mr. Tony, as Nigel confirmed on Monday, you were right that Bruce Hornsby is from Williamsburg. He was actually discovered, this is a great sentence. You need to hear this sentence. He was actually discovered in 1978 by Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers when McDonald saw him performing at, wait for it, the Steak and Ale restaurant in the nearby Hampton area. Steak and Ale. It doesn't exist anymore. It's a great chain, Steak and Ale. There's one in Florida. There's one in Binghamton. Flash forward to the early 1990s, and I was working at a local video store in Williamsburg while attending a certain college there. Shout out to Brad Weiss. Who should come in to return his rentals but multi-Grammy winner Bruce Hornsby? I won't divulge the titles of the tapes he rented. That would betray the sacred video store clerk oath. But I will say he did not follow the suggestion to be kind and rewind. Do you want to tell your Bruce Hornsby story?
Well, there's an update with that, which is that the Hammer loves his Bruce Hornsby song "Fields of Grey." I sing it to him when I stroll him home from preschool. But we sang "Fields of Grey" for a high school graduation song, and then we went out to did we go to Wolf Trap?
Wolf Trap.
And we got to meet Hornsby beforehand, and I tell him the story, and his kid, who then goes on to play D1 ball.
D1 starter at LSU in basketball.
Basically, right off the tour bus shooting hoops. And I tell him this story, and he tells me how he wrote it for his kid, and sort of the lyrics speak for themselves. And then he introduces it middle of the show, going, "I hadn't played this in a while, but this one playing Fields of Grey."
That's phenomenal.
Nice man, Bruce Hornsby.
You know who he plays with, right? A band.
Stevie Winwood now.
You're not a fan of the band, the Grateful Dead.
Oh, I thought he played with Stevie Winwood. I thought they toured together.
He's been touring. Well, he might be touring with them now, but I know he's toured with the Dead for an awfully long time.
One more from our old friend Joe Bianchino in Latham, New York. Hold on. Dan Byrne has opened for The Who and given Wilt Chamberlain tennis lessons? Who's writing his biography, and where can I submit a sample? If you're out on your bike tonight, everyone, as always, do wear white.
Come on, man. What we doing out there, man?
All right, so that does it for the Thursday, June 2nd episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show. Moving right into the Friday, June 3rd episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Previously on the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Now, don't tell me who you sat next to on a plane anymore. We're done with that.
Want to hear my top three?
What's your top
No,
three?
I don't have any.
You know, that's it. We've had that. Who I sat next to? Sat next to Wilbon.
They did cover a lot of that Wi-Fi stuff in biology for non-majors. I'm not sure if you...
No, there was no Wi-Fi then.
That wasn't...
I am too old to understand these things. That's why I'm asking for help.
Right.
I ask for help on things I don't understand. You know what I really don't ask for help on? Sports writing. I understand that.
The Tony Kornheiser Show is on now.
Alrighty then. We are happy today. We have guests. We're reaching out. We're going to Paris for Liz Clark. And we got Steve Sands on. So we're not going to talk. We're not going to bring in our basketball guests. So we'll talk amongst ourselves about the basketball. Let me do a couple of things first, though, to acknowledge other stuff. Brian O'Neill in Landenberg, Pennsylvania. Bonnie brought over mail the other day that came to PTI in the last X amount of months. And I get this lovely card, and it just says, Tony, I want to write to express my appreciation for you. I consider you a national treasure. My wife and I DVR PTI and watch it almost every day. Thank you for what you do, Brian. I don't know who he is. That's so sweet.
It's a very lovely name.
You know, that's nice. Now, he will never hear about this because he's not a podcast person, but that's very nice. Also got this lovely... Michael, explain to the people what this thing might be.
It looks like honestly, like a calf warmer. Or
Yeah.
like a part
It's from Teresa Krant. Teresa Krant.
Oh, it's like a glove? Like a...
It's for a penguin. It's for a penguin. She knitted a PTI
It's a penguin
scarf sweater for a penguin.
It's got armholes.
It's just so unbelievably nice.
That's brilliant.
I get to see it doing the dance.
I've got to go get a penguin at some point.
Back to the front.
It's just lovely. Teresa Krant. Thank you so very much. She will never hear this either because she's a PTI person. Our congratulations go to our friend Chuck Culpepper. He has been named the East Com Media Award winner. He's being honored in 2 weeks in Ellicott City in Maryland for his work. Isn't that nice? It's the Eastern Athletic Communications Association Monahan and Wallace Media Award. Good for him.
Yeah, that's
really
great.
nice.
Yeah,
Anytime you name Chuck Culpepper the award winner of anything, you have named the right person. So congratulations to Chuck. This comes from an email from Sam Atkinson, so I'm happy for that.
I hope there are no storms that day.
Storms last night were brutal.
Fierce.
They were brutal. I thought we'd get knocked off the air.
Yeah.
They were in and around 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right. That's when they're
tough.
rolling through, yeah.
Tony Tallarigo writes, I work with the Pittsburgh Pirates AA affiliate, the Altoona Curve. We play the Nationals AA affiliate, the Harrisburg Senators. And if you wanted to come to the great, great town of Altoona, Pennsylvania, I'd be more than happy to get you some tickets behind home plate free of charge. The next time we play Harrisburg at home will be June 28th through July 3rd. While we don't have any coffee-flavored ice cream, we do accept cash at our concession stands, unlike that stupid post office that only accepts crypto and those monkey NFTs as payment. If there's anything of interest, let me know. That's very, very nice.
Yeah, you don't need the ballpark app.
That would be nice. How far is Altoona? Is that like 3 hours, 4 hours from Washington?
This has to be better baseball than watching the Nats play the Cincinnati
The Nats stink. Every reliever they bring in is greeted by a home run.
They finally scored a run.
Yeah, they've scored one run in 29 innings, a solo home run that barely got over the wall, but got over the wall by Josh Bell in the 7th. And then they went back to their old ways.
They finally brought up Luis Garcia.
It's just, that's good. Give it a shot.
Says from right now about 2 hours and 46 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
Well, it's got morning traffic. So
That's
it's
not
a little
It's
closer.
probably, about 128 miles, it
Yeah,
says.
that's nice. Let me do the basketball quickly. If you like the Boston Celtics and you were able to stay up late, you're very happy today. Does it mean the series is over? No, it doesn't mean that. And the reason it doesn't mean that is because the other guys have 3 championships in hand, and they know what they're doing. They are the least likely team to be crazed by this in the entire NBA. Least likely. Should they be concerned? Yes. Should they be worried? No. Game 1 is the least important game as the series develops. It's the least important game. Now, if they lose both at home, that's different. The Celtics did it in a strange way for them. They did it on offense. They hit their first 7 threes of the fourth quarter. They're down 12 going into the fourth quarter on the road to a team that has not lost at home. And they put 40 on them. And they win the fourth quarter 40-16, and they win by 12. It's a 24-point swing. You don't expect that. They made 21 of 42 threes. It's pretty good. You don't think of the Celtics for offense. You think of them for defense. That fourth quarter, they had both. Offense and defense. That surprises me. Doesn't surprise me they won. Surprises me the way that they won. You're a big Celtics fan. You must have enjoyed that, Nigel.
It was a roller coaster night because the first quarter when Steph Curry goes off, for 21 points, you're like, well, this is how it's going to be. Then they
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They actually have the
I
lead.
did watch the first half.
Yeah, and by the way, thanks. I love the game starting so late on the East Coast. It's tough.
9 o'clock start.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a 9:10 start.
Yeah. But then, and then when they're down 15, that's when I was flipping around and saying, well, what else is on?
And looking for a movie?
Yeah, The Mummy Returns with Brendan Fraser was the choice. And then you flip over and you're like, wait a minute, it's gotten close again.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable. And I would say
The Warriors are not supposed to lose that game in those circumstances.
No.
Up 12 going into the fourth.
And they did it when Jason Tatum had really a tough
Terrible.
time. And didn't do anything really in the fourth quarter, but he was dishing the ball off a lot.
If you are a Celtics fan, you are quietly, because you can't be loud about this,
Right.
you're quietly saying to yourself, oh, we're going to beat them. We're going to win this series.
Well, it's a long series and they're really
I understand,
good.
but
you
yeah,
feel good.
but-
Feel good today.
I'll tell you what, if you win game 2, that's an entirely different story.
Yes.
The thing about the Warriors is, you can never count them out because they are capable of 40-point quarters all the time.
Yes.
All the time. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I mean, I will have to today on PTI. Jay Adonde's going to be on today. Wilbon is taking the day off. Jay Adonde will be on. Love Jay Adonde. He was an
Yes.
intern for us at the Post
That's right.
a long, long time ago.
Yeah,
Love
he's
Jay.
great. That'll be a good
The
show.
only thing dicey is that Northwestern connection for Jay. There's another Northwestern guy. From John Campbell in Crawfordsville, Indiana. Well, before I get to this, let me tell you what I did yesterday. 2 things happened. I called AT&T because I'd reached the point where my phone stunk. Not my phone.
The service.
The service in my home had gone from riches to rags. It's just terrible.
In the places where you like to make phone calls from.
Yeah, because I need to sit at a desk and
Yeah.
work. Right. So it wasn't working for me. I called AT&T, got somebody right away. It's my first question all the time. What country are you in? And the answer is the Philippines. So my impression is when I start talking about my neighborhood, I'm not going to get a lot of help from somebody in the Philippines. We talked for a while. She was very nice. She said, I'm going to transfer you over to the tech people because we want to fix this problem. So they transfer me to the tech people still in the Philippines. And I go over the whole thing again and again and again and again. And I explain, I'm just getting no service in my house. And I do say at some point, do you have the ability to transfer me to someone maybe in Washington, D.C. who would be able to help. And no, that they don't have that. They don't have that. But at some point they say, and I was on the phone for over an hour. And I just felt I was digging the same hole. I mean, I just didn't feel that we were moving. And they finally said to me, we'll get back to you. And I said, okay, great. And they did. They got back to me about 8 hours later in the early evening.
Did you get this? Have you tried restarting your phone?
They didn't do anything like that. I did that once or twice.
Check for updates.
Yeah, and
This sounds like
and they said, they asked, they got Carol on the phone. They said, how's the phone? And she said, it's better, thanks. I said, great, glad we could help. But the person who helped the most was you, Michael. Why don't you take over the story?
Well, thank you. I guess I am that tech person who resides in the District of Columbia.
Yeah.
So first up, I'd like to thank the two boys, 2 under 5, who gave me the patience to deal with you. You're sort of in that same category, the preschool crowd. First up, I logged into your AT&T account and I tried to do a cellular sort of reset to try and reset the signal. But what's frustrating from that side, I'm not even talking to a person, but I can see, and they're saying there are no outages in your area. There are no issues, and I'm pinpointing your exact house.
Yeah.
So I then, on a lark, tried something with you where I walked you through, go to your home screen, go to where you put your ear, swipe down.
See, I did do all that.
See the bars for Wi-Fi. Turn that off so it's not blue. You're like, yep, with you, because I wanted to try and see if we could identify how many bars you had. We only had one
bar.
But finally, I got you into settings, and we discovered that maybe you never turned it on, maybe it was turned off, but your Wi-Fi assist was not on for your cellular calls. So we turned it on.
And I would never have known that because I don't know what a Wi-Fi assist is.
Right, but now basically if you have that dropped call to Kelleher at 11:15 in the morning,
and Julio,
your Wi-Fi should be able to support it.
I keep telling the people in the Philippines, but I get dropped with Kelleher and I'm dropped with Julio. And they just say we're so sorry.
Matt Kelleher, yes.
They don't have any idea what I'm talking about, which is okay. But Michael, you walked me through it. I did it, and then it worked with both Matt and Julio.
Yeah,
I was amazed. And I got a lot of mail, and let me read one example. This from John Campbell in Crawfordsville, Indiana. It finally happened. I couldn't help you with phantom water bills or wine or toasters. I haven't sat next to anyone famous on an airplane. The number of outlets in my kitchen is fairly average, and the list of famous people from my hometown of Crawfordsville, Indiana is pretty boring. Then finally this morning, I hear you talking about your AT&T cell phone coverage, and I thought I know this problem. And I can't get a new cell phone tower installed near your house to improve your signal. Probably don't want that anyway, even though we do a much better job of disguising them now than we used to. The problem is not 4G versus 5G either. Your iPhone from 2021 is 5G capable, but still works with our 4G network as well. The best solution from your problem is to make sure that Wi-Fi calling is enabled on your iPhone. This allows your phone to use your Wi-Fi connection inside your house to make and receive calls over your internet. Your Wi-Fi signal should be much stronger than your cellular signal inside the house. Now, if your Wi-Fi stinks, that is something that you need to bother some rum-dum at Comcast about. Or you might need to replace and upgrade your Wi-Fi router, depending on if you rent it from Comcast or if you own it. I've been a listener since the radio days, and I was thrilled for the chance to help. So I hope that my advice provides you some relief. Thanks for all the hours of entertainment over the years. La Cheeserie. And John Campbell is the Associate Director of Outage Management, AT&T Consumer. So that's
a contact to hold on to.
That's a great one. That's absolutely great. And your advice
Can you hear me now?
Your advice was his advice.
Yeah.
So
best is I'm at home and I get basically a word for word to that email from Ross Weber from Keene, who's going, maybe he has to upgrade his cable modem that you rent, but it's the Wi-Fi history. Now, you don't have other devices. If you're not careful with your settings, if you have, say, like a computer or an iPad, you're getting pinging all across the floor as you're getting, calls transferred from one device to another if you don't turn that off.
I don't have any understanding of any of this.
You have a car phone.
But but I knew something was wrong in my house because when I used the phone in my car, I never had any problems. And that leads me to conclude, though reluctantly, that it's not the phone, that it's the house. And Michael, you came to that same conclusion. I'm sure we got a lot of emails that say the same thing.
Got a lot of them. So yes, the Littles responded in great fashion.
Well, that's all I asked for.
Yes.
And I'm sure they're laughing like what a dope this guy is, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because
I make the call. That's all.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're wondering who still makes calls.
Yeah, we think we'd be like, well, maybe it's the humidity. Maybe that's what's causing it. Yeah, just don't know.
I don't really have a good sense of how it works.
Yeah.
I don't. So let me express my gratitude to everyone who, in a time of need, was able to respond and help. There's a lot of people, and I'm grateful for that. Again, there's things like you don't need to help me analyze the Celtics beating the Warriors. I know that. I've done that for a long time. But you need to help with the phone. All right, we have Liz Clark from Paris when we return. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show. The Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the X Chair, Reed. Many of us spend more time every day in our office chair than in our cars or in our beds. Wow, if you spend more time in your office chair than in your bed, you are working. That's why it's so important to invest in the right chair so you'll spend those hours with the right level of support and comfort to get the most productivity out of your day. My physical therapist, Scott, loves the X Chair. He says, sit in the X Chair, but sit back. And you see me, I don't sit back, I sit forward.
Yeah, you lean forward, yeah.
X Chair will make the time you spend at your desk not only more productive, but it will become your favorite place to sit for any reason. Lean back, people. Don't do what I do. Not only does X-Chair's patented dynamic variable lumbar, or the old DVL, offer the ultimate customized support, but X-Chair can even give you a massage. Plus, it can heat up or cool down depending on what you need. And now, thanks to X-Chair's new FS360 armrests, you can even adjust your armrest to the perfect position. All these unique features for X-Chair will help the hours at your desk fly by in complete comfort. I really think you'll love it. Go to xchairtony.com now. That's the letter X, chair, Tony.com, or you can call 1-844-4-XChair for $100 off your order. X-Chair has a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort. You can finance your purchase for as little as $30 a month. xchairtony.com, and please use the code.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
On a lonely day.
This is Mitch Bradford. He has just released his new single, More Than Life, which we're playing now, and permission to use it is granted below. First song you played on the show 5 years ago, Got You On My Mind, was recorded in his apartment. This latest track was produced last summer at the revered Village Studios in Los Angeles. They add Mitch's name to the long list of famous acts who have recorded there, like Fleetwood Mac, the Rolling Stones, B.B. King, Bob Dylan, Coldplay, etc. I believe you call that trending up. This is sent us from Matt Matari, and Mitch Bradford gives permission from More Than Life. We'll have two songs by him today. This is a wonderful song. And it plays in Liz Clark all the way from 6 hours east of us in Paris, France at the moment. You're sitting, waiting for Nadal to play. Am I correct? Nadal plays a semifinal match in an hour or so?
Exactly. That's exactly the picture.
And who does Nadal play today?
He plays the third-ranked player in the world, Alexander Zverev, who is taller, younger, very hard-hitting, among other things.
And I'm sure that's going to be a great match. And I'm sure no matter how great it is, it's not going to measure up to the Nadal-Djokovic quarterfinal. In all the years that you have covered tennis, I would think that match, Nadal-Djokovic, is a top 10 match that you have ever seen. Am I right?
You mean the one just now the other day, or any matchup between them?
No, the other day.
No, it completely was. I mean, I love clay court tennis. I think it demands the most out of players. And, at this point in their careers, at this point in their lives, at their ages, all that's riding on it, it's just stunning. I mean, there's never going to be another Chris Evert Martina 80-match rivalry in tennis.
Right.
But in the men's game, this is the best. This is the best, I think, in history, rivalry.
I watched the last few games of the fourth set and then the tiebreaker. And like everybody in the crowd in Paris, I was rooting for Nadal. And I felt it was thrilling. And what I said the next day was, it doesn't matter if Nadal loses his next match. It doesn't matter. I don't even think he's going to win the French Open, because I think the last two matches he played have been so grueling. And he's 36 today, and that's old for tennis. But I don't even think he cares. I think the big one for him was beating Djokovic, or do you think I'm wrong?
No. I mean, I don't think there's any, animus toward Djokovic, but totally agree that he is not a stats guy. I mean, he demands so much from himself, but he has said many a time, he believes many a time that his achievements you can't boil them down to, he does not boil them down to number of Grand Slams. He is not in a foot race with Federer and Djokovic for 21, 22. He says, we three share, we have done this together, we have done something together that tennis has not done before. For him, he wants to give all to the extent his body will allow. And truly, at this age, with his chronic foot condition, that is his opponent right now. And I think there will be tears today because this may be his last French Open.
That's what I think. I can't pronounce Zverev's name correctly.
Yeah.
He's about 6'6". He's huge, right? I mean, he's huge. He's lean. He's Do you agree with me, or do you think no, Rafael Nadal can win this last French Open? I know he can. I just don't think he will. How about you?
No, I mean, I predicted, and after the 5-set, was that a 4th round victory over Felix Auger-Aliassime?
Yes,
after that was a 5-setter. I thought, no way he's getting past Djokovic. In fact, it's going to be Joker in straight sets.
That's what I thought. Yes,
so
me too.
That floored me. It floored me. So no, I think Zverev is too tall of an order. And it's immaterial who he faces in the final. I mean, technically he should beat whoever, but I just think his body is near the end. His foot is near the end. He's traveling here with his personal doctor, who he hasn't talked about at length, but he said, my doctor is here, and it's because of him I'm able to play. So again, this chronic foot ailment, it's a degenerative ailment. It causes him pain, constant pain. And, but he loves competing so much. He loves his tournament. He loves the people, and he loves pushing himself. So there's so much emotion, a career's worth of emotion invested in this match today. And kind of win or lose, if he feels he did his best, he will be okay.
He talks openly about this could be the last time I'm here in Paris. He's the greatest clay court champion of the French Open of all time by 1.5 miles. But the numbers, and he may not want to deal with the numbers, but the numbers are important. Federer has 20. He's not going to get any more. Maybe he'd win with him, but he's 40. He's not going to get any more.
No.
Nadal has 21. Djokovic has 20. And that's why the Australian Open was such a big deal.
Yes.
Such a big deal that Djokovic, for his obfuscation of the facts of his vaccination, he was deported. Or he might have won that. That opened the door for Nadal. So Nadal is one up. In your opinion, will Djokovic, because he's younger, not by much, but a little younger, will Djokovic pass Federer and then pass Nadal in your mind? Or do you think there's not enough time left?
I think Djokovic will pass Nadal. So one more, he ties Nadal.
Mm-hmm.
And no, he's 11 months younger, but the style of tennis he plays, the efficiency with which he plays, his body hasn't had nearly the pounding. He's a workout fanatic, lean, freak. And that's not disparaging. I mean, he is meticulous about taking care of his body. So I think there are more years of tennis, elite tennis left in him than in Nadal. And he's incredibly driven by metrics and stats and trophies and the most this, the most that, as most athletes are. I fully expect him to surpass Nadal on the 21, before he retires.
Do you think that means he's better than Nadal?
We talk about this every time, yet I never tire of it. Because I love this topic. So, I'm not going to quibble with some guy who points to numbers and says, case closed, he has more. But that is not my worldview. Like, who has the most money? Who has the biggest house? Who has the most trophies? I just don't view success in that way. So to me, Nadal is and will be the greatest tennis champion ever because of the heart and the fight and the grit, the way he competes with sportsmanship. He has not put a foot wrong. And I just, the Australian Open final this past, where he got to 21, that was one of the damnedest things I have ever seen in sports. And every word I had was not adequate for that 5-set comeback. Yeah, people will say by numbers, Joker's going to have the most. He's the best. I can't. If that's the plane on which we're discussing it, I have no response. Okay. But I know what's in my heart.
Yeah. As an OCD person myself, and I am, I watched Nadal very closely over the last, 30 minutes, 40 minutes I watched that match. He's wildly OCD. Wildly. Does he ever talk about that? Has it gotten worse? I mean, there are certain things he has to do or he cannot serve the ball.
Yes. Not in any deep-seated, I'm going to open the window to my psychology way, but and I'm not seeing it change. It's just been a defining thing. The placement of his water bottles, they have to be a certain way at the changeover. He has to smooth out the towel a certain way. The way he steps around the lines a certain way, and then the twitches of yanking on his shorts, his head round, we know them all. That's who he is. I've watched him practice probably way more than the average person. His practices are ritualistic too. This is a very meticulous, leave nothing to chance. This is how I do my job. The big challenge he had to this, the most significant challenge of his career, was when they instituted the shot clock for serve. You have to get your serve off TikTok this amount of time. And, I'm not sure he always abides by that. I'm not sure it's always enforced, but you're just not going to hurry up this guy. Now, that said, Joker, with the endless bouncing of the ball before serves, that's either OCD or gamesmanship. That's an open question, but he has that eccentricity, too.
I just appreciate it in Nadal. I mean, he touches his hair in a certain way, touches his ear, and it's a pattern. And it's gotten him to this point. So the last thing, if you're like me, you just add things on. You never reduce. You just add things on in order to get ready. Let me shift over to the women. Swiatek, and I've learned how to pronounce that, against Goff in the finals. Every once in a while, America, as Paul Simon would say, throws a hero up the pop chart. There's always some young girl who wins something and then doesn't become Chris Evert and doesn't become Martina Navratilova or Steffi Graf, or anybody like that, or Serena Williams. Maybe this year it's Coco Gauff. What do you expect in that match? Because the other woman, Swiatek, she's the best in the world. She's the best in the world.
Yes. I love this question. I love the setup, the context. Ooh, let's keep talking. But no, I am expecting and rooting for a 3-set final. Swiatek has dropped 1 set. It was somewhat aberrant, the whole tournament. But she's just been crushing her opponents, and she's a really nice person, not that though that's incongruent, but she has such a varied game. She has the variety of Federer. She worships Nadal, so she hits a forehand, in her best Nadal manner. She loves clay. She's aggressive. She takes the ball early, and she has this aura, and she's only 21. She's very young, super smart. She's an avid reader. She's such an interesting person. She plays the ukulele. She loves AC/DC. I mean, she's just a great character. So I expect she'll win. That would be her 35th consecutive win, and I believe that sets a century, this century mark.
It beats Serena.
Meaning 22 years. But I cannot say enough about Coco Gauff. I mean, I cannot believe I'm wrong in saying she is not going to go down as the next Jennifer Capriati or whatever the cautionary tale is for teen who flashed greatness and then had got derailed, either physically, emotionally, psychologically, whatever. I think Coco is one of the most fierce athletes I've ever covered in terms of her sophistication, her smarts, her awareness of her role and responsibility as a person, as a Black woman, as a new voter, as then maybe an athlete. I mean, she will speak out on issues so intelligently. She plays so intelligently. She has patience. She has calm, and she has a big game. And she. I don't want to say humble in the sense like she's meek, but she always talks about her parents, the lessons she got from them, the role of her education, the difference she wants to make in sports. I mean, she is so grounded. She is so smart, and she only gets better. And just like not an hour ago, she and Jessica Pegula just won their doubles match. So Coco could get 2 Grand Slam championships here at the French Open. She's going to be in the finals of the women's and the finals of the women's doubles.
It's lovely. I'm glad. That makes me happy. Because, of course, the cautionary tale is Jennifer Capriati. And by the way, it may also be Naomi Osaka. For different reasons. But the sort of ultimately inability to get on the court because other things are hounding you. And it would be nice if that didn't happen with them and didn't happen with anybody else. What a joy to talk with you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tony. Bye-bye.
Liz Clark, boys and girls.
Magnifique, as they would say.
It's a joy. We'll take a break. We'll come back with Steve Sands. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show. Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is a solo stove read. Now, the other day when we did solo stove, I mentioned you don't want to be out at night when it's 85 degrees. Tonight's going to be great in the D.C. area.
Yes.
It's going to be in the high 60s.
Especially after coming off of yesterday afternoon.
Giant storms.
Not solo stove weather.
This is a nice day for solo stove
humidity.
weather.
No humidity.
No. Life's best moments happen around a roaring fire. And a smokeless fire pit from Solo Stove makes your outdoor moments even more memorable. Because instead of having to dodge campfire fumes, you can sit back, relax, actually enjoy the fire. There's nothing like a roaring fire to bring you back to what matters, which would be keep your hands out of the roaring fire. The things digital distractions and the frenzy of everyday life make too easy to forget. Michael, you like Solo Stove.
Yeah, we have the Solo Stove, and in preparation of these early June evenings, we're getting the deck power washed.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Good for you. It's easy to start the fire, right?
Yeah, just a few bits of starter.
Yeah. Stainless steel construction designed to regulate airflow, burn more efficiently, so little smoke, you'll wonder how there's so much fire. They're so confident you'll love it, they offer a lifetime warranty and a 30-day free return policy. Right now you can shop Solo Stove's best deals during their Memorial Day sale, which is ongoing. And if you use the promo code TonyK at solostove.com, you get an extra $10 off. You might think, $10, it's not much. But if you've got $10 every day, it would be much by the end of the year. Not that you're going to buy a Solo Stove every day, but you might buy it for your friends. Get money off. That's solostove.com. Promo code TonyK for $10 on top of their incredible Memorial Day discounts. But hurry, the Memorial Day sale ends June 5th. That's in a couple of days. You got today, you got tomorrow. We got tonight, as Sheena Easton once said. You know what I'm saying? Use the code, people.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Once again, we have Mitch Bradford. This is a song called Got You on My Mind.
Recorded in his apartment. We played this first time 5 years ago. I have this song, I downloaded it. I listen to it all the time. It's fantastic.
I say it all the time. The level of talent of the people who submit music is beyond comprehension. It just is. Michael, if people like Mitch Bradford want to send us their original music, how do they do it?
Send us your music by emailing it to jingles@TonyKornheiserShow.com.
And is our Johnny O code applicable?
Yes, TK Bootsy, that's SIE, TK Bootsy 5. They have a lot of great matching gear for Father's Day that's coming up.
Wonderful. Steve Sands joins us. He sent me a picture yesterday of what appeared to be a bag of candy. And all I could read was champagne bears. Can you explain this to me, where you got it and what they are?
Yes. So I'm in the booth this week for Golf Channel, and as golf viewers know, whenever you're in the booth, you always have the CEO or somebody who represents the company who is sponsoring that week's PGA Tour event in the booth with you for a couple of minutes. So yesterday, the CEO of Workday comes in, and he's going to be on the air, and he comes in, we have our headset on, we're on the air live, he comes in, and he shakes my hand, says hello, and he hands me this big box, and it says Workday on top of it, so I'm wondering what the gift is. I open the gift up, it's two big boxes inside the one large box of gummy bears, and they're all different flavored gummy bears, and one of them was a champagne gummy bear, and I thought, geez, Valdo loves, I'm in the booth with Valdo, so he loves champagne, I like champagne, we both love gummy bears, so we started eating them, and I figured I'd take a picture of it because of all the friends I know, nobody loves gummy bears. I love the Tony Kornheiser.
I love gummy bears. I'm so jealous.
The mixture of gummy bears and champagne made the show, the last hour of the show, a lot better.
But Workday, they make gummy bears? I thought they were a consulting company or something.
Yeah. No. It was just, they're the sponsor this week, and that was one of the gifts they gave to their Pro-Am participants on Wednesday, that they could have some gummy bears laced with champagne.
Good for you. All right, we'll get away from gummy bears, and we'll get into the Saudi Golf Tour. Dustin Johnson is in. Phil is not in yet. He could be in. There is an opening. Right. If Phil Mickelson called anybody in the world and said, I'd like to play in your tournament, they'd send a jet for him, no matter where it was or what he wanted. Your reaction to DJ in and Phil so far out?
Well, the Phil being out, I figured was going to be the case. He's kind of dipping his toe in the water before he comes back in. It'll be interesting to see in the next 4 or 5 days whether he is one of those last 6 guys in. They only put 42 guys out, so 42 names in the field, and there is a field of 48. So there's 6 spots open. 5 of them are for players from the Asian Tour, and then there's that one wild card spot. They're trying their hardest to get Phil to take that spot. As for Dustin Johnson, man, I didn't think that Dustin was going to be on that list. But in the last couple of weeks, as things have kind of ebbed and flowed with that Live Golf Tour and that Live Golf Series, they've had to, pony up some more money to get bigger names. Dustin Johnson clearly thought it was a great economic decision, business decision for him, and he's going to tee it up next week. As far as it looks right now.
So let's stay with him for a little while. He was immediately dropped by RBS, the bank, immediately dropped for going and doing business with the Saudis. But the report is that he's getting 8 figures. It's just a tremendous amount of money. I don't think he cares at all about RBS dropping him. Some other people will get on board. Do you see this as a complete monetary decision? Because he doesn't strike me as political at all or as really a deep thinker. I'm just assuming this is money.
As the great man once said, the answer to all your questions is money.
Right.
Dustin Johnson. So, first of all, it's RBC, not RBS.
Okay, RBC, I'm sorry.
Royal Bank of Canada. The Royal Bank of Canada. RBC is the sponsor next week, Tony, of the PGA Tour event. The RBC Canadian Open is next week. Dustin Johnson is their biggest client or sponsor as far as golf is concerned. Dustin Johnson is the one who basically carries the mantle for them. And it was a big slap in the face to them in their eyes that he was not only going to go do something that they told him not to do. They told him that beforehand. They said, we do not want you doing this. And in fact, when he played the Saudi Invitational, which was played a couple of months ago when Harold Varner won, a lot of players played in it. They asked him to not have the RBC patch on his arm when he played, and he did that. So when he decided to put his name in the hat for the Live Golf Series event next week, the one that goes head-to-head against RBC's biggest PGA Tour event, the RBC Canadian Open, that was the end of that relationship. So Dustin knew exactly what he was doing. He's going to take the 8 figures, and obviously that's way more money than RBC is paying him to wear his patch on, to wear their patch on his shirt. But the RBC did not like that decision, that they ended that relationship quickly.
So I've been following this for a few months, not with the sort of vision that you've been following it, but Dustin Johnson's name was always on the list. It was always the notion that he'd be the highest-ranked American who the Saudi Tour had a chance of getting.
Right.
But he publicly committed in February to the PGA Tour. Those words are out there. Everyone knows those words. Why did he do that?
I don't know. Sounds like he could be a politician as opposed to a professional golfer. So, from what I understand, from talking to a lot of the guys in the last few months, at Riviera, which is in Los Angeles, the last week of the West Coast swing, so we're talking sometime in mid to late February, Augusta National was coming up about 7-8 weeks away. There was a lot of Live Golf Tour talk in golf, and Augusta National wasn't necessarily pleased with that. The PGA Tour wasn't pleased with that, and basically the PGA Tour, who knows if Augusta National had any influence in this? My guess is yes, but I don't know that for sure. But the PGA Tour basically was like, listen, you've got to make a choice here. You've got to tell us where you stand. So all the guys who came out against Live Golf pretty much held firm, and their stance has held all the way till now, which we're in June. Dustin Johnson was one of those guys who came out. Now, since then, Tony, a lot of things have happened with Live Golf. Players have come and go. We know about the Mickelson situation. They need Live Golf. They need the biggest names they can get. And if the money truly isn't a factor to the people who are backing this league, backing this series, and they keep saying they have unlimited resources, well, that money kept rising, and I guess it got to the point where Dustin Johnson had to just say, okay, I'm taking the money. It's too much money. Hey, let's say it was, $75 million 3 months ago. Well, if they up it into the 8-figure range, so north of $100 million, at some point everybody's got their price, and clearly that price was met by Dustin in the last few weeks.
Do you think that the PGA Tour will be specifically harsher to Dustin Johnson than anyone else because of the embarrassment factor?
It's a great question. I don't think so. I think they're going to make it all equal. I don't think it matters to them, the PGA Tour, that Dustin Johnson is the biggest name in this field. He's a lifetime PGA Tour member with 20-plus wins. When you get to 20-plus wins on the PGA Tour, you're a lifetime member. I don't think his status and stature being any different than, say, Hudson Swafford and Taylor Gooch, who are also on that list, and Kevin Na and countless other PGA Tour players are on that list. I don't think they're going to give a harsher punishment to Dustin than they do to somebody else. What I think is going to happen is I don't think these guys are going to get fined, and I don't think they're going to be suspended, Tony. I think the PGA Tour is going to wait until Thursday because any of these players could change their mind. So you can't make a decision before they put the peg in the ground, before they tee it up for the first time next week. So once these guys put the peg in the ground, once these guys play the event next week, I think all of them will be banned for life. And
for life? For life?
I think so. And then because I think that's the stance the PGA Tour feels that it needs to take. And then the lawsuits will happen.
Yes,
and then
that's right.
If there are injunctions and those types of things, the guys will play through it. But if the PGA Tour is going to draw a line in the sand and put their foot down, Tony, then to me that means once these guys play next week, once that happens, that they're going to be banned. Not for a year, not for 5 years. Maybe it'll be something like a 10-year ban, which would, remove them from any chance of them ever playing again, as opposed to banned for life. But it will be a a large ban, a significant ban. It will not be one of these fines or suspensions, in my opinion. I don't know that for a fact, but that seems like the route the PGA Tour is taking.
And if you had to guess, do you think Phil will tee it up in London?
Oof. I still don't think he's going to. I just don't think he's ready to take the heat. And I think he might be curious to see what this thing looks like next week. Will it be a legitimate competition? Will it be a clown show? Who knows? I think Phil is a little reticent right now to take the public heat that he's going to take once he plays in one of these things, if he ever plays in one of these things. Or if he comes back on the PGA Tour, same thing. He didn't play the PGA Championship, Tony.
Right.
Remember we talked about this. He didn't play the PGA Championship because he just didn't want to take, the heat from the media and the public that he's going to take eventually when he does come out, if he ever does. But it's only a one-time thing for Phil. Once he plays, once he speaks, once he gets it out there, and then competes, to me, it feels like it kind of goes away a little bit. But for him, he's not ready to take that heat yet. I don't think he's going to play next week. I think if he would have put his name in that field list, it would have been already. But I don't know that for a fact.
Now, get you out of here on this. Where will this be in 5 years, in your opinion? Will it be a coexisting tour? What do you think?
I don't think it'll ever be a coexisting tour. I can't imagine that. I don't think the PGA Tour is going anywhere. The PGA Tour is a big time league tour in this case, and I just don't see it going away. It has too much history, too many great things, too much money. I don't know if the Live Golf series is going to work long term. They say it's a long-term investment. I don't know how long that'll be if they don't get the results they're looking for. They need some visibility. They don't quite have that yet as far as a television partner. But they are getting good names. They are getting big names, and they do have huge money backing this Live Golf series. So let's wait and see how these 8 events go this year, and then make an assessment moving forward. I'll say it's not around in 5 years if you're going to make me give an answer right now. But, you just don't know how it's going to play out here this summer. Let's see what they look like. And then the next time we do one of these phone calls on your show, then we'll have a little bit more of a feeling as to what the guys think those events are like. Because I can't wait to talk to the guys, hear from the guys after the event next week to see what they thought, and how it went, and, the whole logistics and all those kinds of things.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. It's the biggest story in golf, unless there's a major out there right now. It's a big story. Steve Sands, boys and girls, we appreciate that. Enjoy the booth. Enjoy the Champagne Bears. We'll be back with Email and Jingle. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Oh yes, I'm the great zucchini. Entertaining the youth of DC.
Joe Arrow is so good.
To make it clear, your kids will cheer on their birthdays if you just hire me. Oh yes, I'm the great zucchini, and I'm waiting for Michael to call on you boys, but the price is my advice. Get grandpa to pay for it all.
Just brilliant performance
Great
by
song
Joe
choice.
Arrow. And John Moransky in Roanoke, California wrote it. It's just great. It's the Platters. It's the Great Pretender.
And I hope the Great Zucchini hears this. Yes.
Still
waiting on that call.
You want to do the Bethesda Bagel ad?
Bethesda, we got the sandwiches today.
I know we got to get back on the Monday sandwich.
Yeah, they flipped
trail.
it for us. Yeah,
we got to go back on the. I love them. We got to go back on the Monday sandwich.
First, you want the sandwiches. Now you don't want the sandwiches today.
No, I want them. I want them.
You want them on Monday, though.
I want them, but I want them.
I want them. Bethesda Bagels, we love them. You will as well. Go to BethesdaBagels.com for the location in the DC area nearest you. Then pop on in and you'll be thrilled.
That'll do it for us today. Before we get to the mailbag, let me just say, no particular place to go, so we parked way out on the Kokomo. The night was young and the moon was gold. We both decided to take a stroll. Can you imagine the way I felt? I couldn't unfasten her safety belt. That's Chuck Berry from 70 years ago. It's just so great. It's Chuck Berry. Thanks to our guest today, Liz Clark, all the way from Paris, Steve Sands, great guests. Thanks to our sponsors, X-Chair, Solo Stove. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Odyssey. If you get the show through Apple, please leave us a review. I'm going to read some things here from Sam Angel in Silver Spring, Maryland. Allow me to write in memory of my cousin, so it seems Roger Angel, who in baseball circles is the definition of A1 above the fold, even after a pretty good run of 101 years. I'm not quite certain of the relation, and we never met or talked, but Cousin Roger, as we affectionately called him, did correspond with my dad and fellow emailer George a time or two. It always gave me a little thrill to have someone ask if we were related. Even when I first heard about him, I was more excited to be able to claim his stepfather, E.B. White, the author of one of my early favorites, Charlotte's Web. He was perhaps the last link to baseball's early days, but he reveled just as much in the successes of Griffey, Pujols, and Ohtani as he did in Ruth, DiMaggio, and Mays. It was affirmation for a fan like me who came along with the DH already firmly established in the American League. As they say, attention must be paid. From Alexis Pereira in Queens. I'm proud to announce my engagement to Erin Fenton, the granddaughter of Akron University Hall of Fame basketball player Red Fenton. I include a picture of us just after she unwisely accepted my proposal at the Eiffel Tower. The only thing I don't like about Paris is you can't get a simple cup of coffee in a cafe, even though cafe literally means coffee. I'm going to open up a shop called Bagels that only sells scones. See how they like it. Here's the pictures.
Oh, congrats.
This is so nice. From Eric Marks in Solon, Ohio, or Solon, I don't know. I sat next to Mr. Tony and Jr. at Burns Steakhouse in Tampa. Cannot remember if it was for a Final Four or a Super Bowl. I admit I eavesdropped on the conversation for a second. Tony and John were complaining about who had the worst seat at the game that night. I went back to my dinner. That's exactly what we would have said. That's exactly what we would have said.
Seems plausible.
It was more likely, because of the seating, it'd be more likely that would have happened at a Final Four, though I don't recall being in Tampa for Final Fours, and I know I've been there for Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So I don't know. From Dennis Brown. Rather than sitting on a plane near someone famous, I stood in a car rental line at St. Louis Lambert International Airport in the mid-1980s behind St. Louis native Lawrence Peter Yogi Berra. It's my practice to leave famous people alone, so unlike others in line, I did not ask for an autograph or handshake. I also wisely didn't ask for a handshake while standing at a urinal next to Walter Cronkite in Arizona State University's Cronkite School of Journalism, and I resisted the urge after finishing my business to say, and that's the way it is, which was Cronkite's sign-off.
Yes.
Brilliant. It's brilliant from Dennis Brown. From Kevin Nelson in Raleigh, North Carolina. Giselle. That's it. That's the email.
It's a pretty good one.
Giselle Bundchen, sitting next to her on a plane. Here's one from Kenny Ray, our friend from Fort Walton Beach in Florida. And I'm going to read it. It's long. Sometime back in the mid-2000s, while I was still flying for United Airlines, I was commuting to work through the Atlanta airport, trying to get to Chicago for my next trip. I was able to catch a ride on the last flight of the night on Delta. And since the flight wasn't full, the captain was gracious enough to let me sit in first class seat 2B. Tony, I'm a huge baseball fan, have been my whole life. So when I tell you that sitting almost across from me in seat 1C was an elderly African-American man who I immediately recognized as Ernie Banks, I think my heart skipped a beat. So now I'm trying to decide whether I should say something to him, but I'm hesitant to do so because I'm in my United uniform as a guest in first class on a Delta flight. I don't want to be that guy who doesn't know his place. It's late. He probably gets inundated with fans wanting a little bit of his time. He probably just wants to relax, so I sit there quietly for the duration of the flight. What was so cool was that the flight attendants all knew who he was, and they stopped by often to check on him to see if he needed anything. When we landed at O'Hare, I watched Mr. Banks get off the plane, and as was my habit, when I jump seated to work, I stayed in my seat until all of the paying passengers deplaned, poked my head into the cockpit to thank the captain for the ride to work, and walked down the jetway, disappointed that I couldn't bring myself to say hello to the great Ernie Banks. So I walked through the gate area, and I turned the corner to leave the secure area, and there, sitting on a bench all by himself, is Mr. Banks. It's 10:30 at night. There's hardly anybody in this part of the terminal. He's not exactly a young man anymore, and I'm thinking that maybe something is wrong. So I walk over, and I say, Mr. Banks, is everything okay? Do you need any help with anything? And he smiles smiles and says, no, someone is coming to pick him up, and they'll be there shortly. And then I can't help myself. I say, would you mind? And before I can complete the sentence, he is opening a satchel and pulling out an already autographed 8x10. Clearly not his first rodeo, as they say. How cool is that? I have seen that in my life on airplanes with Ray Leonard.
Really?
He carried pictures. They were signed. He gave them to people. I'd never heard of that in any other way. I'm glad to know it about Ernie Banks. From John Conroy Esquire, attorney in law, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Imagine my surprise when Carmine Calzanetti's name was mentioned on a recent show. Carmine was raised in Audubon, New Jersey, attended Gloucester Catholic High School prior to attending St. John's. I knew many of his younger siblings who attended the same grammar school, St. Rose of Lima, in a neighboring town, or maybe Lima. I seem to recall that he went to St. John's as a baseball player and may have walked on to the basketball team. Well, he started for 3 years. From Kyle in London. I'm headed to the Glastonbury Music Festival in England at the end of June with my wife and 11-month-old daughter. Since you have a stockpile of excellent musicians on the show, and since we use the mailbag to communicate amongst ourselves, I was wondering, are any of the artists going to play the festival so I can show some love with a hearty lacheserie? I'll hang up and listen, and I don't know that. We
don't know, but yeah, if you are a musician, listen to the show and you're playing that, please email us.
From Don Hammock in Biloxi, Mississippi. Some decades ago, I was flying out of Washington, and I grabbed a copy of the Post on my way through the terminal. I sat down on the plane, I started reading. I hopped to the sports and read that day's column by Satchmo, putting the paper down. Who do you think I saw sitting across the aisle from me? Well, it wasn't Tony, because, airplanes. Wasn't Tony. From Scotty Baker, who says he's the unofficial Egyptian archaeologist of the Tony Kornheiser Show in Berrien Springs, Michigan. On the subject of famous people in airports, I was once in the Tampa airport in the summer of 2008 waiting for a ride after collecting my baggage. Almost everyone from our plane had already left when one of my fellow passengers, a fairly athletic-looking kid, walked my way holding a hockey stick that he had just collected from the oversized luggage area. He was also carrying a Tampa Bay Lightning duffel bag. He was walking with someone in a suit who was obviously escorting him. I looked outside. I saw the Tampa Bay Lightning minibus waiting outside. Who was my famous fellow passenger? I don't know, because it's hockey. From Ken Baker in Petersburg, Illinois. In 1975, I was fresh out of college and working as a manager of a restaurant in Carbondale, Illinois. And one of our regulars was Rudolph Wanderone, better known as Minnesota Fats. He came in most evenings, and often I got to spend a few minutes with him. Once after an absence of a couple of weeks, he came in and I asked where he'd been. World Pool Championships, he replied. I asked him how he had done. I didn't play, he said. I just told him I'd take the winner. That's right. Just so great. We'll end on that. It's so great. If you're out on your bike tide, everyone do wear white.
Who makes you excited, Henry?
One soda. One soda. One soda.
So good.
All right, so that is it for the Friday, June 3rd episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show. Until we find a airport to land at here in, I think, Labrador still, maybe? Newfoundland, maybe? Newfoundland and Labrador. We're going to listen to some of the segments from the Friday, June 3rd. The sessions, the segments of the Sharp and Benning Show from Omaha, Nebraska.
Target.
Sharp and Benning in the morning on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and the 1620 The Zone app. Here are Gary Sharp and Rafi Lula.
From the car, rebound is loose. Smith the same, still bouncing around, and somehow it doesn't go in. Smith has lost his catching glove. Smith's catching glove is off. Kilmacar keeps it in at the deep slot. Shot from McKinnon. He scores! The Mac attack is back, Jack! The Avalanche finally cashed in on the power play. Mike Smith down a piece of paraphernalia, and the Avs make the Oilers pay. It's a power play goal with 4:40 to go in the third period. Colorado 4, and the Oilers nothing.
Pitch is swung on and drilled to deep left field. That ball is gone in the left center field seats. LeMahieu pulled one to left field and in the seats. When he homers, he normally homers to right. So David John makes long gone. into the left field seats, and the Yankees take a 5-0 lead.
Contreras, the Cubs' designated hitter. Now the 0-2 pitch to Wilson. Swung on, hit in the air. Deep left field. It's got a chance. Gone. 2-run home run, Wilson Contreras. Cubs lead 2-0. He hit an 0-2 pitch.
The pitch. Swinging a base hit to center, and the Brewers win. Andrew McCutcheon knocks in Jace Peterson with a winning run on a single to center, and they have come from behind to beat San Diego. Horford finally knocks a rebound away, and here come the Celtics trying to take the lead. Jalen, offensive end, finds Tatum. Leads Derek White, attacks baseline. Derek White to the corner. Pritchard closed down by Wiggins. Kick out Horford. He's open for three. Get it!
Stop him! Stop him! Get right back in this puppy! You ain't going too fast yet, Golden State.
Before we dive into what happened last night, and kind of a bizarre game one of the NBA Finals where both teams had a 15-point lead, and Boston put up a 40-burger in the fourth quarter to outscore Golden State by 24 to take a 1-0 lead. You were not supposed to be here as a diehard Golden State fan. It's not like late last night at 10:30 after Golden State lost, we said, you know what? Let's get 8 hours of Ravi on 1620 this morning, and let's just let him talk about the Warriors. So you were scheduled. We had a little change in the schedule to come in, but I'm sure that we will talk a lot about a game where I know you felt good. I felt good from the financial side of it. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, I'm like, you know what? Gosh, do I want to go to bed? What do I do here? A lot of people that may be on the East Coast went to bed after the Golden State third quarter.
Well, yeah, because such a late tip, they couldn't stay up.
Well, and then you wake up and you go, whoa, what happened? My only advice as you unpack this game is because there'll be narratives, because we've got a couple of days until game 2. And by the way, I've jumped on the price for Golden State to win the series. It's now plus 155. So things change a little bit.
Yeah.
Kids, this is what I have to say to you. Not every game is a 3-point shooting contest, even though, wow, when some guys are cooking like Curry, I'm glad to be alive.
Incredible to watch, yeah.
But kids, today, when you go and you talk to your friends on the playground about game 1 of the NBA Finals last night, do not try and replicate Al Horford's elbow-out shooting, because not everybody that does that can hit 6 threes and score 26 points in his first NBA final.
It's not just elbow out. He goes elbow out, and then the other hand is actually in front of the ball.
And it is so ugly.
It's the ugliest thing.
My gosh,
in the world.
You're in the postseason. I know you don't want to hear this, but last night he's been so effective. For a guy that didn't shoot threes in college, really has never shot threes. Remember a guy that was told to stay home and get paid last year in Oklahoma City, and he's had a little bit of a resurgence. He's 35. He's got a role with a pretty resilient deep team, but for him to shoot the 3-ball, and he's got 46% in the playoffs, but for him to shoot it like that last night and Derek White, they got on a heater, man. I don't know what to say to you as a Dubs fan. They got on a heater in the fourth quarter. Really, the kind of flip of a game where in sports, Robbie, you feel momentum shifting, and you feel a team all of a sudden go, yeah, this is possible, and how do you stop it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got guys like Smart and Horford and Derek White, I believe they went 15 for 23 from 3 for the game. Those 3 guys are all 33% or worse 3-point shooters on the season. So, yeah, if those guys are going to do that, you're going to win the game. That's how it works, right? And so I'm not terribly worried from a series perspective. There's so many things that happened in last night's game, specifically the fourth quarter, that just aren't going to be repeated at any point in the series. Whether you want to talk about the shooting performances of White and Smart and Horford, you want to talk about Golden State not scoring for almost half the fourth quarter, that's not going to happen again. You want to talk about, the Celtics aren't going to have another 40-point quarter the entire series. I'll guarantee that.
Well, that's amazing to put up a 40-piece, and that turned into a butt-kicking.
Yeah, it did. It flipped on Golden State incredibly fast. But like I said, overall, there's just so many of the things that happened in that fourth quarter, especially, and I talked about this a lot the last couple of days. The Celtics have been one of the worst closing teams in the league, and the Warriors have been one of the best. That completely flipped on its head last night. I'm going to trust the entire season that we saw of both of those teams returning to who they were.
It's for Boston, and give them credit. They're resilient. Any talk about lack of experience, not being healthy, they kind of hung around last night, and they're 8-2 on the road in the playoff. I mean, I think they're really well coached. That's something you and I discussed last couple of days. But here's where the game was weird. So it does turn into a 3-point shooting contest at the beginning of the game last night.
Yep.
Golden State and Boston. It seemed like every shot was beyond the arc, and a lot of shots were going in, and especially for a guy wearing number 30, who Boston forgot about. I mean, granted, you haven't played Golden State in a while. Maybe he was a little bit further down on your scouting report. Curry was having one of those moments, and this is why he is one of, or maybe to some, the best shooter ever in the history of the game. Because when a guy is cooking like he is, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah,
I mean, the kind of shots that he hits, just in rhythm. And he was doing that in the first quarter last night, and everybody's looking into the record book to say, oh my God, the guy's on a pace to score 84 in this game, which would have been amazing.
He did not score 84.
Well, so he cooked, and then he kind of cooled a little bit, and then the third quarter came back, and he sizzled, and then in the fourth quarter, didn't score. He was 0 for 3 from the floor. It was such a strange game, but with that first quarter last night, and really, as the game unfolded, Tatum didn't play well. Tatum helped out in other ways, but he only scored 12 points.
Yeah.
I think he created or scored 38 of their points.
Yeah, he had 13 assists, which was a big number for him.
But here was the telling sign for me is, as good as it felt like Golden State was playing, they never pulled away. They had the moment at the end of the third quarter to get the double-figure lead going to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But even when Curry was cooking, they weren't blowing out Boston, and Boston was kind of hanging around without Tatum. And I thought, that's not a recipe that you want that is sustainable. Now,
no, for sure.
And again, I thought Boston was done at the end of the third quarter. I'm like, here you go, cash it in. It's game one. Move on. You got another chance to steal one on the road before you go home. And then things flip. But just to be close when Curry was trying to shoot you out of the first game, was like, okay, maybe we got something here.
Yeah, you're right. The way Curry played in that first quarter, Golden State needed to be up by more than that. They threw a haymaker, and Boston took it on the chin really well. So that was an issue kind of for the rest of the game, because if they are able to even get that lead to let's say 8 to 10 points, and they're up by 8 to 10 at halftime instead of down 12, and then they blitz them into the third quarter that way, which is not a stretch of the imagination. They blitz a ton of teams in the third quarter that way. That's kind of what they do. All of a sudden, instead of a 10, 12, 15-point lead headed into the fourth, you're talking about a 23, 25, 27-point lead headed into the fourth. So to me, I agree. I think the fact that for as well as they were shooting early, they really didn't separate the way they needed to put that game away early. Because for a while, it looked like they were going to hit that 17-point margin that they've been having in game ones under Steve Kerr. But for me, the biggest thing last night in terms of what the Warriors did wrong was defensively. I just did not think they were quite as sharp as they needed to be. Even when in that third quarter, when I think they outscored Boston by 16, 14, something like that. Their defensive rotations, their kind of closeouts and things like that looked like they hadn't played in a week and a half.
Yeah.
And those are all things I think they can clean up. I didn't see anything last night from Golden State that I didn't think was fixable. I would make an adjustment defensively on how they're dealing with Tatum. I would probably go to more of a Luka model where against Dallas, they said, okay, Luka, if you want to score 35, 40 points, go for it. The role guys aren't getting involved. And I think that was I think they overcommitted to Tatum last night.
Who just was not good.
No, he was 3 for 17. He was really bad, but he had 13 assists. That's a really big number for him. And kudos to him he still shot 17 times and wasn't shooting it well, but kudos to him for getting the ball out because of how aggressive Golden State was on him. But Tatum isn't going to beat you by himself. There's not a single player in the league, and I mean that literally, who can beat you by themselves. No one's putting up 80, right? That's not a thing that's happening. You can let Tatum get 40 as long as Derek White, Al Horford, Marcus Smart aren't giving you 15 threes combined. You can get away with that as long as you stay true on your other assignments. So to me, that would be a big adjustment that I would make if I was Steve Kerr. And I expect him to, because he's great at adjusting game to game. He always has been.
And it's the first 1 to 4. I mean, Golden State said all the right things after the game. Draymond Green said we dominated him for 41 to 42 minutes. I mean, come on.
Probably not that long, but they were the better team for probably 30 minutes of that game. And obviously it's a 48-minute game, so that didn't work out. But obviously the first quarter they were better. The third quarter they were better. That's 24 points right there. You can make an argument they were better for, 6 minutes in second quarter, maybe part of the fourth quarter. He is right that they played better for the majority of the game. It wasn't 41, 42 minutes because they were down at halftime.
The fourth quarter was a 17-0 run. It was an amazing fourth quarter. It was also one of those things where you talk about being portable going into game 2 and the rest of the series. I don't think Boston's going to make 20 catch and shoot threes. They're not going to be 21 of 40 from beyond the arc. One thing it did show last night.
I don't think they're going to make 23s just in general.
As that game played out, the one thing about the NBA, and you admire the fourth quarter and the way it played for Boston, because 40 to 16, 24-point differential is an all-time finals record.
Largest in fourth quarter in finals history.
And really nobody saw it come. I mean, it's 92-80 going into the fourth quarter, and you're thinking, all right, the game's over. I like my 3.5.
Sure, yeah.
And then things flipped, and it's a 17-0 run, and you can't get out of it, and you can't get that big shot to go, okay, here we go, and it just started to stretch, and you know what the 3-ball does. And at that point, leading up to that point where I'm thinking, okay, we finally got a great NBA playoff game. Yeah, I mean, there were parts of it that were really good. But one thing that is true, regardless of it ended up being a 12-point victory, is guys in the NBA that shoot the basketball for a living, when they shoot it well, it's amazing.
Oh, it's incredible to watch.
You think, how did that go in? The net doesn't even move. When guys are on a roll shooting the 3-ball, like both those teams were last night, especially at the beginning of the game, they're like, damn, that's why they're the best in the world playing in the NBA. Because I admire that kind of shooting. And we got it last night. We got it from, Curry.
That's the reason I'm a Curry, Clay, Warriors fan, right? Like, it's my favorite thing to watch in basketball is people just go supernova shooting the ball. It's my favorite thing. And so from that standpoint, there were really enjoyable moments of the game. Obviously, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. And it's less enjoyable to watch the other team shoot like that. But, I just watched that. And I'm like, I know that that's not who those guys are in terms of shooters. And I will say, and this, how much, do you ever play a lot of, like, pickup ball when you're, like, in college or anything like that? You play. So Al Horford kind of reminds me of that guy who's just got that, like, busted jumper.
Yep.
And you refuse to guard him. Regardless of how many he makes, you're like, nope, it's too ugly. I will not close out to that. And he just keeps making them.
Yep.
Right? That was I had almost like a deja vu moment of playing pickup ball with some dudes with just broken jumpers. But if they're going in, right? And so long term, I think you're okay letting Smart, White, Horford shoot. I know Horford shot it well in the playoffs so far, but there's also just a part of me that's watching it where if the shot itself doesn't look good, then it's dramatically less enjoyable to watch it go in. And that's not a Golden State Boston thing. That is a basketball aesthetics thing where I just don't like ugly jumpers. I don't care if they go in or not. I'm not going to enjoy that experience.
And and that is an ugly jump.
Ugly. His feet are weird too. We were talking about his elbow and his hand. The feet are ugly too.
He's just a very awkward basketball player. But he had 26 in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. No one saw that coming.
He may not have 26 the rest of the series combined.
No one saw that coming. So Boston's up 1-0 in the series. Well, plenty more to talk about. Welcome in Sharp Betting in the Morning. Ravi is in for Damon on this Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. There is a lot going on. It is a busy weekend in Lincoln recruiting. We'll dive into that. Let me give you the lineup brought to you by the Roofery's at John Higgins Weather Guard, who I'm sure if Higgy was working last night, we may have had a call or two on flopping.
There were some flops, sure.
There will be flops.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be flops. Coming up at 8:30, Mike Sauter stops by. Also, Mike Schaefer, fresh off his vacation, where he hopped on the interstate and drove west, ended up in Wyoming, Idaho, Montana.
Ended up like he just kept driving and got lost?
It's, wouldn't that be nice to say one day, I got, maybe you don't have a job, but you got a lot of money, or you want to, I thought about this when I got out of high school.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really want to go to college.
Sure.
I didn't like school. Okay.
Understandable.
People all know the story. It took me a long time to get through school.
Sure.
Just because I was good. I did 12 years of school. I thought I was good. I thought, because I had a high school classmate that did this. He did the gap year.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go in the military. He wasn't ready to go to a trade school. He didn't know what college he wanted to go to. And so his parents got him a car for graduation. And he just hopped in his car and he drove west. And he wanted to drive from Iowa to the ocean, the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
And then he would just drive back. So wouldn't that be
Moving
nice?
west to Omaha.
I think Shafe and his wife had more of a detailed plan.
Sure.
But you just hop like Robbie, you leave here today and you say, you know what? Wife's out of town. I got really no obligations for the next week. Let's just hop in the car and let's just drive until I decide to stop. Now, Schaefer, that's kind of what he did, so he'll tell us about his trip coming up at 9.
Yeah, I don't know that I enjoy road trips enough for something like that. I mean, they're fine. I'm not morally opposed or anything, but just driving from Iowa or Omaha, in this case, to the West Coast, that doesn't sound super appealing.
You just want to drive across 80, you see something, you just pull off and stop.
You
see the archway in Kearney, you're like, hey, that looks interesting.
Now, I will say that does sound more appealing when you don't put it on okay, we're driving and we have to get to here by X time.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what makes a road trip miserable, right? Is the deadlines and the rushing and whatever. If you're just kind of enjoying the experience, you're like, yeah, let's stop here, let's stop there. That restaurant looks good. That's a weird looking museum. That could be more enjoyable. I will say, the extended road trips I've been on, so I drove from LA to Houston once, and I've driven from Omaha to Houston a couple times. Those are tough drives.
All right, so I may have confused the brake button there and would do an awkward landing, but look at us, we're good. We've landed here in Hopedale, I think still Labrador, Newfoundland and Labrador anyway. A little bit of an awkward landing, but we made it, and we will take off from here next time on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Tour.